Chapter 657. What's going on? This is an ownerless land. How can it be yours? That's right. How can it be yours? Your Imperial Dragon Divine Nation is strong, but this place is empty because the Phoenix race destroyed the heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation. Maybe the Phoenix race will come and take it. If the Phoenix race comes, let's see how you deal with it. Everyone was filled with indignation and dissatisfaction. The Phoenix race didn't say anything, so how could the Imperial Dragon Divine Nation occupy this place? They were even more unwilling to stop exploring. Rumor had it that there was an inheritance here, so how could they miss this opportunity? If the Phoenix race comes to take it, we will give it to them. Since this is an ownerless land, we will manage it for the Phoenix race. If you want to continue exploring, we welcome you at any time, but you have to get our permission first, Grandmaster Tianqing said coldly. Moreover, you have already tried it, but it didn't work. I advise you to leave as soon as possible. Grandmaster Tianqing's words were high-sounding. Helping the Phoenix race to manage the Phoenix race? It sounded even better than singing. However, many cultivators still wanted to retreat. They had already tried it, but it all ended in failure. There was a chance that they could break it, but there was also a chance that they couldn't. But now that they were taken over by the Imperial Dragon Divine Nation, they couldn't fight against a Divine Nation. According to the ranking, the Imperial Dragon Divine Nation wasn't even in the top 10, but it was still a Divine Nation. Even if they didn't have Saint King stage powerhouses, they would definitely have a lot of Spirit King stage powerhouses, especially now that Grandmaster Tianqing was a Divine Rune Grandmaster. Although his rank was a little low, his status was much higher than most of the people here. We want to continue trying. A small group of people stood up and said, "Yes, each of you can give us a mid-grade soul tool." Grandmaster Tianqing said, "What?" Everyone was shocked and immediately said angrily, "That's impossible. This is an ignorant land. Why do you have to charge us? Didn't I say that you can just agree? Why do you still have to charge us? We are charging for the Phoenix race. Although the Phoenix race didn't come to take over this place, if they do, we will take good care of it. Maintaining this place requires a lot of resources. Your expenses are equivalent to offering to the Phoenix clan." Grandmaster Tianqing's words were reasonable, which made them speechless. If the Phoenix clan really came over, they would definitely offer it up with both hands. Even if there was no such thing, the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire would not dare to go against the Phoenix race. The two of them were not on the same level. If they didn't come, it would mean that they had taken it. Their scheming was obvious. "This is my territory. Since when did you have the right to collect fees?" At this moment, a figure walked out from the crowd. Everyone looked over and saw a young man walking out from the crowd. "It's you." When Grandmaster Tianqing saw Tianyun clearly, he flew into a rage. He had been humiliated by Tianyun earlier, and he had been holding a grudge against him ever since. Now that he saw Tianyun again, he was even more furious. "This is my territory. Since when did you have the right to decide?" Tianyun said coldly. The Phoenix clan didn't say anything. "What right do you have to occupy this place?" Tianyun found it funny. This Imperial Dragon Divine Empire really knew how to take advantage of loopholes. They thought that the Phoenix clan didn't come to take it, so they rushed over to take it. They even said that they were helping the Phoenix clan. If the Phoenix clan really came, they would hand it over immediately. They could even befriend the Phoenix clan. Their wishful thinking was really good. "Your territory?" Grandmaster Tianqing was furious. What a joke. If the Phoenix clan found out about this, I think it wouldn't be enough for you to die 100 times. Then you call the Phoenix clan over. Let's see if they will let me die 100 times. Tianyun said coldly. "Get down here." He raised his hand in the air and slapped Grandmaster Tianqing's face. Bah! Grandmaster Tianqing tumbled down the stairs. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he tumbled several times before finally falling to the ground. His face was swollen badly. The surrounding crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. This new young man was quite hot-tempered. Most importantly, his cultivation was not bad. This kid is dead for sure. The Imperial Dragon Divine Empire is not so easy to mess with. Especially when he is helping the Phoenix Clan. No matter if he is helping the Phoenix Clan or not, this kid is courting death. Yes, the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire wants to borrow flowers to offer Buddha. Before they take over this place, they quickly come over to help. At that time, no matter if the Phoenix Clan is willing to take it or not, they will profit. This kid is still too young. He doesn't even understand. He probably came from some mountain village. He doesn't know what kind of monster he provoked. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but laugh. They felt that Yi Tianyun was too reckless. You actually dare to hit me. I am the Imperial Preceptor of the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire. Grandmaster Tianqing jumped up and pointed at him angrily. Capture him and bring him to the Phoenix Clan. Make him beg for forgiveness. I am helping the Phoenix Clan to manage this place. But someone wants to barge in. This is a big crime. Yes, Imperial Preceptor. The guard at the side was stunned. He immediately pounced towards Yi Tianyun and wanted to capture him. I haven't seen you for a while, and now you are the Imperial Preceptor of the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire. It seems like the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire is really stupid to hire you as their Imperial Preceptor. Yi Tianyun sneered and said, Get lost. Get lost. Yi Tianyun slapped the guard and sent him flying. Even if they didn't die, they were at least seriously injured. Yi Tianyun's action shocked many people. On the one hand, they were shocked by Yi Tianyun's cultivation. Although the guard's cultivation was not high, they were still at the Void Spirit stage 8th layer. Doesn't this mean that this young man's cultivation is at least at the Spirit King stage? On the other hand, they felt that Yi Tianyun's courage was really big. He dared to go against the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire. Even if he was at the Spirit King stage, he was obviously insignificant in the face of a divine nation. You are determined to go against the Imperial Dragon Divine Empire and the Phoenix Clan? Grandmaster Tianqing covered his face and looked at Yi Tianyun in horror. So what? Yi Tianyun said coldly. You are blocking my way. This heaven-ascending divine altar is my territory. No matter who comes here, they will die if they dare to provoke me. His words caused many people to suck in a breath of cold air. His tone was really arrogant. Did he not put any forces in his eyes? Can he enter the heaven-ascending divine altar? Immediately, Yi Tianyun lifted his foot and walked towards the heaven-ascending divine altar. But he didn't go far before he heard an uproar. The Phoenix Clan's divine messenger is here. It's really the Phoenix Clan's divine messenger. This is going to be interesting. Chapter 658. The divine nation of the Phoenix race was here. All the cultivators looked like they were waiting for a good show. They had been talking about the Phoenix race before. Now that the real divine nation of the Phoenix race was here, they wondered how this would end. Most people thought that Yi Tianyun was dead for sure. Imperial Dragon Divine Nation was a bootlicker. Even if the Phoenix race didn't buy it, they wouldn't vent their anger on Imperial Dragon Divine Nation. Yi Tianyun was different. He chose to force his way in. This would easily anger the Phoenix race. When Grandmaster Tianqing saw the Divine Phoenix Messenger, he immediately covered his face and ran over. He shouted, Divine Phoenix Messenger, you're finally here. His fawning expression was disgusting. If this was the Imperial Preceptor of Imperial Dragon Divine Nation, he would be a disgrace to the nation. This attitude was really too low. How was this the feeling of a teacher of a nation? However, the others didn't laugh at him. Grandmaster Tianqing was a wise man. If he kept a straight face, he would be killed by the Phoenix race without knowing what would happen. Our Imperial Dragon Divine Kingdom has just arrived to help the Phoenix race guard this altar and prevent others from getting close. Who knew that this brat wouldn't know what's good for him, and insisted on forcing his way in. Not only did he injure me, he also injured one of our people. Grandmaster Tianqing's face was swollen. He looked very comical. He was still smiling, which made him look very funny. The Phoenix race didn't just have one divine phoenix. There were several of them. The phoenix following behind them was the best proof. Tianyun didn't summon his ice phoenix. He wouldn't summon it under normal circumstances. His speed wasn't as fast as his, so he wouldn't summon it normally. The Phoenix Divine Envoy stared coldly at Grandmaster Tianqing and slapped him across the face. With a loud slap, Grandmaster Tianqing was sent flying. After being sent flying for a distance, he even rolled a few times on the ground, his whole body lying on the ground in a daze. Not only was Grandmaster Tianqing stunned, but the surrounding cultivators were also stunned. Was it wrong for Grandmaster Tianqing to do this? Not only had he failed to flatter the right person, but he had also slapped the horse's leg and got kicked instead? Divine Phoenix Envoy, I was just worried that the altar would be destroyed by others, so I had them guard this place. I didn't really intend to take it for myself. Grandmaster Tianqing hurriedly scrambled to his feet to explain. He didn't want to be misunderstood, or else it would be troublesome. Imperial Dragon Divine Empire would definitely eliminate him without hesitation and would not protect him. Grandmaster Tianqing really thought that he had done something wrong, which was why he had been beaten up by the Phoenix Divine Envoy. It wasn't just him, everyone else was thinking the same thing. The Phoenix Divine Emissary didn't bother to pay attention to him and walked towards Tianyun. She immediately put her hands together and bowed deeply. Greetings, foreign great elder. He was very respectful. The news of Tianyun saving the entire Phoenix clan had already spread far and wide. Everyone knew about it, so they were very grateful to Tianyun for helping them solve this problem. He was definitely the Phoenix clan's savior. Because of this, Tianyun became their great elder, and everyone in the Phoenix clan had to treat him like a great elder. His authority was equal to that of a great elder. Oh, I've become a great elder of the Phoenix clan? Tianyun found this interesting, but it wasn't unexpected. He knew that the Phoenix clan was doing this to rope him in and give him better treatment. He didn't expect this, so he could accept it calmly. He was already a divine envoy, so becoming a great elder of the Phoenix clan wasn't a big deal. Yes, after a discussion, you've become a great elder of the Phoenix clan. Your authority is equal to that of a great elder, the Phoenix Divine Envoy said respectfully. These two simple sentences made everyone dumbfounded once again. Great elder, a great elder of the Phoenix clan. When had the Phoenix clan ever seen a great elder of the Phoenix clan? This was definitely the first time they heard of a great elder of the Phoenix clan, and his authority was equal to that of a great elder. They all wondered if they were hallucinating. Did I hear it wrong? Great elder of the Phoenix clan. This kid is the great elder of the Phoenix clan. Sure. Don't drag me down if you want to die, kid. This is the great elder. This is unbelievable. If the divine envoy of the Phoenix clan didn't say it, I wouldn't dare to believe it. Even if the divine envoy of the Phoenix clan said it, I wouldn't dare to believe it. This time, the Imperial Dragon Divine Nation is finished, and the one they offended is the great elder of the Phoenix clan. No wonder he kept saying that this territory is his. He wasn't saying it randomly, it's the truth. Everyone was stunned, and they finally knew what was going on. Everything he said wasn't boasting, it was the truth. Grandmaster Tianqing was also stunned, and he pointed at Tianyun with a trembling finger. How is this possible? Wasn't it a foreign kid just now? This. He was stupefied, and his intestines turned green with regret. How was he kicking an iron plate? He had kicked a giant mountain. And, thank you for your concern, go back. Also, I don't want to see that guy again, help me deal with him. Tianyun looked at Grandmaster Tianqing indifferently, and he couldn't be bothered to deal with him personally. He wouldn't gain much experience, and it would be a waste of his time. If not for these guys, he would have long entered the heaven-ascending divine altar and left, and he wouldn't be stuck here wasting his time. Yes, Elder E. The Phoenix Divine Envoy turned to look at Grandmaster Tianqing, and her eyes were as cold as ice. The Great Elder's authority is inviolable. Your Imperial Dragon Divine Nation is really bold. I can explain. Grandmaster Tianqing was so scared that he wanted to cry, but he didn't know what to say. In the end, Tianyun didn't even bother to look at Grandmaster Tianqing, and he lifted his foot and walked into the gate. The divine runes that were hard to break had no effect on him at all. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw Tianyun's action. The divine runes didn't have any effect on him at all. Screams could be heard coming from outside, but Tianyun didn't bother to pay attention to them, and he continued to walk inside. With the teleportation, Tianyun instantly arrived at the central area, and a delicate voice sounded in his ears again. You broke through? The little girl's phantom appeared and looked at Tianyun in surprise. In such a short time, Tianyun had broken through to the Spirit King stage, and even she couldn't see through his cultivation. Although Tianyun's cultivation is almost the same, but Tianyun has a lot of equipment, it can play a certain role in concealment. If the cultivation gap is not big, it is really difficult to see. Yes, I can control the teleportation array here to go to the heavenly realm, right? Tianyun smiled indifferently. No problem, I thought I would have to wait for another few decades, but I didn't expect you to come back in such a short time, and you even found Master's descendant? The phantom was surprised. Yes, there is no problem at all, it's my luck. Tianyun smiled. If it wasn't for his kindness, he would have missed Julingyun. Sometimes being kind can be very beneficial to oneself. Chapter 659. Tianyun confirmed that he was qualified to control the Heaven Ascension altar, so he immediately stepped on the teleportation array to the Heaven Realm. The teleportation array in the Heaven Realm was the peak of the Heaven Ascension altar, and the huge teleportation array was the Heaven Realm teleportation array. In order to be able to teleport to the Heaven Realm, the heaven-creating Divine King really spent a lot of effort to carve this array. The main reason he did this was to ensure that there was another way to go to the Heaven Realm in the case that the passage was damaged, so that the two realms could be connected. Now that the Ghost Realm and the Heaven Realm were blocked, the passage was unstable and could not be casually passed through. If he forcibly passed through, there was no doubt that it would be very dangerous. Fortunately, there was the Heaven Ascension altar here, which could easily lead to the Heaven Realm. This teleportation array could not only teleport one person, but also a large group of people. As long as there was enough spiritual power, it could teleport more people. Now that he was the only one being teleported, it was relatively simple and did not need to consume too much spiritual power. Let's start. Teleport to the Heaven Realm. Tianyun said to the phantom next to him. Yes, Master. The phantom had now recognized Tianyun as the next master. As long as his cultivation reached the standard, he could become the real master. Immediately, the phantom began to activate the teleportation array. Soon, the entire Heaven Ascension altar was shaking, and the teleportation array was emitting light. When the rogue cultivators outside saw the situation, they were shocked, not knowing what was happening. What's going on? After the foreign Grand Elder went in, this happened. Could it be that something opened? God knows, we can just watch from the side, but this time, the Imperial Dragon Divine Kingdom has to pay a price. They found an idiot Imperial Preceptor. Not only did it not bring them any benefits, but it also caused a lot of trouble. This is a little interesting. Everyone was in the mood to watch the show. Anyway, they had no relationship with the Imperial Dragon Divine Kingdom, so it did not matter what happened. Buzz. Just when they were wondering what would happen here, the Heaven Ascension Divine Altar suddenly blasted out a huge pillar of light that soared into the sky, piercing through the clouds, as if it was connected to the heavens. The earth trembled, and the ground within a radius of 10 li shook, as if there was an earthquake. However, the beam of light disappeared as quickly as it came. In the blink of an eye, the beam of light that connected the sky disappeared. Everything returned to normal as if nothing had happened. Nothing happened? Everyone was confused. It seemed like there was such a big commotion, but who knew that nothing had happened? They had thought that Tianyun would activate some sort of formation or attack, or perhaps some sort of heavenly phenomenon. Who would have thought that he would disappear in the blink of an eye? While they were guessing, Tianyun felt a tug on his body after a short period of teleportation. If not for the fact that his cultivation was not low, he would have been torn in half on the spot. The terrifying pulling force was enough to tear someone with a low cultivation into countless pieces. This process only took less than a few seconds, and he felt that he had entered a strange space, and his vision quickly recovered. The first thing that came into view was still a large formation, and he was still standing on the spacious heaven altar. If he observed carefully, he found that the divine runes here had changed greatly, and there were many changes compared to before. This was a matter of course. From the heaven realm to the underworld, the teleportation formation must be a little different. He did not think that the teleportation failed. If it failed, then he would not be the heaven-creating divine king. The Heaven Ascension Divine Altar's teleportation formation was different from the passage he had encountered before. It was not random, but the same teleportation formation was built here in the heaven realm. The appearance was almost exactly the same, there was no difference. He could also control this place, and there was no change from before. He could still control all the divine runes inside, turning this place into a very strong fortress, difficult to be broken. At the beginning, the heaven-creating divine king's idea was that the two worlds could send reinforcements at any time in order to suppress the foreign demons. The normal passage between the two worlds was too slow, and it was better to pass in batches here. In addition, the passage was easy to be destroyed, and its stability was definitely not as good as the teleportation formation, so the heaven-creating divine king specially spent some effort to build it. He lifted his feet and walked outside, and what came into view was the vast mountains and rivers. There was no big change in the appearance. Although the heaven realm and the underworld sounded very domineering, in fact, the two were similar, and the difference in the concentration of spiritual power was not big. The only difference was the difference in the spiritual power, not the difference in concentration, but the spiritual power of the heaven realm contained a bit of yang qi. The underworld, on the other hand, contained a bit of yin qi. For the cultivation of different powers, it would be helpful. Of course, it could be completely ignored. The Phoenix clan was the fire of yang, but wasn't it still in the underworld? But if one stayed in the corresponding place, it would definitely be helpful, there was no doubt about this. The mortal realm was a mixed area of both, inclusive and did not reject any power. The overall situation did not change much. It was not that the scenery here was like the immortal world, but the underworld was like a scene of hell. In fact, it was just a name. It was just that compared to the heaven ascending divine altar in the underworld, the heaven ascending divine altar in the heaven realm had changed a lot. From here, people came and went frequently in and out of the heaven ascending divine altar. It seemed that they came from different forces. Obviously, this place was different from the underworld. Could it let others come in at will? The only difference was that no one could come up to the top of the heaven ascending divine altar. As long as one came close to this place, flying was prohibited. The heaven-creating divine king did not want others to come up, otherwise, it would be dangerous if the teleportation divine runes here were destroyed. Interesting, I don't know why this situation would happen. Tianyun's figure flashed, and immediately disappeared from the teleportation array, as if no one had appeared here. Hey, I thought I saw a figure on the heaven ascending divine altar just now? Why didn't I see it? Are you seeing things? For so many years, no one has ever gone up, and anyone who approached was immediately suppressed. Really? Could it be that my eyes are really playing tricks on me? One of the cultivators scratched his head, and when he looked carefully over there, he found that he really did not see anyone. No one had been able to climb to the top, so he immediately thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. It's your eyes, let's go down quickly. The heaven ascending divine temple is ready to open the trial. If we don't go soon, there will be no place for us. Chapter 660. There's a 4th grade recovery pill here. It's a must-have pill for recovery in the Heaven Temple trial. There's equipment to reduce the pressure of the trial here. It's absolutely discounted. Come and have a look. I have a special martial art here. After you practice it, I guarantee that you will pass the trial easily. Bullshit. If it's easy, why don't you practice it? If I practice it, will you have a chance? I'm giving you the chance, understand? In the spacious passage inside the Heaven Temple, there were all kinds of cultivators hawking their wares on both sides. All kinds of treasures were placed on the side, just like a lively market. Compared to the underworld was directly occupied by the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom, but here it was completely open, which was very strange. If it was said that the heaven realm did not have any powerful forces from the underworld, this was impossible. There must be even more powerful forces here, but no one had monopolized this place. This was very strange. It's really lively here. Compared to the underworld, the heaven realm is more respectful to the heaven-creating divine king. They dare not monopolize this place. The young man who looked around on the aisle was Tianyun. He understood the overall situation from the phantom here and knew why this place was not monopolized. The heaven-creating divine king said that this place was permanently open to the public, and anyone could come in for the trial. The time was once every 10 years. If it was too frequent, the Heaven Temple would not be able to bear the torment. The consumption of spiritual power was too much, and it must be slowly recovered over a long period of time. Otherwise, it would not be enough for them to participate in the trial. This did not mean that the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom was too arrogant, but only the heaven realm was open. Because the underworld had its own forces, it would not be open to the public. There were no forces in the heaven realm, so it would be open to the public, allowing others to come in for the trial. However, it was just a trial, and the other places would not be open at will. It was impossible to walk around here at will. Except for when it was time to prepare for the trial, it would not be open for the rest of the time. However, no matter how heaven-defying the geniuses here were, they would not choose an inheritor. It would only be open to the Heaven Temple in the underworld. The reason was simple. The underworld had its own descendants. No matter how selfless the heaven-creating divine king was, he was still biased towards his descendants, so it was normal to specifically choose the underworld to choose an inheritor. But after he left, there was no way to change the rules. The spirits here looked vivid and lifelike, as if they were alive. However, no matter how much it resembled a living being, it was still an inanimate object. Everything had to be done according to the rules. The heaven-creating divine king was very powerful, but he was not a real god. He could not create life. Thus, the heaven realm's ascension god palace could be opened at will. Adding on the restrictions of the rules, even if someone wanted to monopolize it, they could not. Unless there was a god king stronger than the heaven-creating divine king, there was no way to forcibly occupy the heaven ascension temple. The reason why the Heaven Ascension Temple in the underworld could be occupied at will was mainly because the restrictions were not strong. Originally, the heaven-creating divine king had set such rules, so there was no problem. "Kid, do you want a weapon?" A cultivator at the side shouted at him. "This weapon of mine will make it easier for you during the trial." The price is not expensive, just 500,000 spiritual stones, and you can take it away. Tianyun smiled and came to his stall to pick up the short sword. After the people on the side saw it, they couldn't help but shake their heads, thinking that a naive kid was about to take the bait. This weapon is just a low-grade soul tool, and the price is as high as 500,000 spiritual stones. Besides, is it really effective? Tianyun tossed the short sword and said with a smile, "How can it not be effective? The effect is absolutely amazing. As long as you buy it, when the time comes for the trial, if it doesn't work, just come to me." The vendor patted his chest confidently. Tianyun sneered in his heart. It would be really strange if he could see him after the trial. He came over to talk, nothing more than to inquire about some information. 500,000 spiritual stones, as the inquiry fee was not a problem. He chose this vendor mainly because he seemed to be the type of person who could search for information, so he casually asked him about it. When he was just about to speak, a young man next to him suddenly shouted, "Friend, don't buy these things, it's not effective at all." "Kid, what are you talking about?" The vendor immediately pointed at him and said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense if you don't want to buy it. Didn't your master teach you not to talk nonsense outside?" The young man was scared and stepped back a few steps, but he still said in a low voice, "This is what my master taught me, it's useless to say anything." Tianyun immediately laughed, the vendor also laughed, but this time he laughed because he was angry. "It seems that you are courting death." The vendor angrily stretched out his hand and wanted to slap the young man away. The young man was about to take the bait. If the young man ran away, then he would have come here in vain. The young man's face turned pale. He hurriedly tried to dodge, but he couldn't avoid the palm. His cultivation was only at first level of core condensation. He should have just broken through not long ago. The vendor's cultivation was at second level of core transformation. The gap between the two was too big. If the vendor didn't even have this cultivation, he really wouldn't dare to come here. At least, he should be able to fly. If he can't fly, how can he escape? Bang! A hand firmly grabbed the vendor's hand, making him unable to move. The one who stopped him was none other than Tianyun, who stretched out his hand to block the vendor's hand. The vendor was shocked. His palm strength was not that big, but it was definitely not that easy to resist. Tianyun can easily grab the vendor. It means that his cultivation is definitely not bad. "Brat, what do you mean by this? Don't tell me you're with him?" The vendor was not happy. He immediately suspected that the two of them were together, otherwise why would he help? Tianyun's eyes flashed, the vendor's eyes immediately blurred. He no longer said half a word. He was easily controlled by Tianyun. There were a lot of people here. If he stretched out his hand and slapped him, it would be difficult to inquire about the news, so it was best to control him. The young man who was ready to be hit found that the vendor was not moving. He immediately wanted to run, but he was quickly pulled by Tianyun. "I don't know your name yet." Tianyun was a bit interested in this young man. He was very kind. The two of them didn't know each other, but he still spoke to remind them. My name is Hironkun." Hironkun looked at the vendor next to him with a pale face. He was really worried that he would suddenly attack again. He can't withstand the attack of a core transformation cultivator. "Hironkun, then you go back first. I will find you later and give you a good fortune." Tianyun smiled and signaled him to leave. "Good fortune?" Hironkun scratched his head in doubt. He didn't know what Tianyun said, but he was worried that the vendor would catch up, so he hurriedly left. "Friend, don't believe this, I will go first, master is waiting for me." Chapter 661. Of course, Tianyun knew that this hawker was a liar. He knew it for a long time, but he only talked to him to get some information. However, he didn't expect that he would be dissuaded by a young man. In such a chaotic world, there was still such a kind person, and he had always appreciated it. Since this young man was willing to help him, then he will give him some good fortune. But before that, he had to get the details out of the hawker first. After taking control of the hawker, Tianyun began to interrogate him. He wanted to know everything about the heaven realm, but he couldn't collect too much information from the phantom. He couldn't go down to collect information, and most of the cultivators would come here once every 10 years, so it was rare for them to reveal information about certain aspects. Tianyun could only collect information by asking the people here, among which Shi Shuiyun's information was the most important. He wouldn't be stupid enough to ask where Shi Shuiyun was, because who would know where Shi Shuiyun was? The information he wanted to collect was very simple. He just had to ask all the forces in the heaven realm. He wanted to see which forces valued the ice attribute physique more, and this was very likely. In addition, the cultivation environment was also the same. Shi Shuiyun's physique was the ice saint body, which meant that she must cultivate in a place of extreme cold in order to maximize the effect of her physique. Soon, Tianyun got the general information from the hawker, and as he thought, this hawker knew a lot, and many small forces knew about it. There are more than 6 or 7 people who meet the requirements. Is this still the heaven realm? Tianyun felt a little speechless. The spiritual power in the heaven realm was more inclined to yang qi, but who knew that there were 6 or 7 places of extreme cold, which really went against the original intention of the heaven realm. However, nature was ever-changing. Even in an extremely hot place, there was a possibility of an extremely cold place appearing. The world was vast and there was no place that didn't have such things. Now that there were more than 6 or 7 people, Tianyun had to exclude them a little bit. Tianyun heard that their cultivation was above the Spirit King stage, which meant that the other party's force should be very strong, at least above the 4th stage, which was the level of an empire. After this elimination, there were still 6 or 7 people left, which really gave him a headache. They were already powerful enough to begin with, and they were unfamiliar with this place. It was impossible for them to ask him if he knew Shi Shuiyun the moment they met. If that was the case, wouldn't he be called a lunatic? It seems that I have to search for them one by one. The area of the branch is really wide, Tianyun said as he shook his head. He felt that even with his amazing speed, it would take him several years to search for all the branches in the branch. It was possible that they might not even be able to find it after they finished searching. He was only selecting the most likely information. The heaven realm was simply too big. It was impossible for this peddler to know everything. It was very likely that it was a hidden family clan or a small force. These were all possibilities. It was impossible for his judgment to be completely correct. Everything was based on intuition. Right, soul guidance? Tianyun recalled that when he had obtained the title of Soul Guide, he had obtained the title of Soul Guide, which could guide him to the target of his mission. The main mission happened to be to find Shi Shuiyun, so if he used soul guidance, wouldn't he be able to find her? He couldn't wait to slap himself. How could he forget about this matter? Immediately, he opened the shop, and soon everything came into view. The things he got from the lottery or the things he got from killing enemies appeared in this shop. It meant that he could spend a lot of money to buy dropped items. It was very user-friendly. However, the price was not very user-friendly. It was basically dozens of times more expensive than the selling price. It was like a Saint tool was sold for tens of thousands of crazy points at most, but if he bought it in the shop, he would need millions of crazy points. Soon, he found soul guidance, and when he saw the price, his face suddenly changed. 3 million crazy points. This made him want to vomit blood. If it was before, he could casually throw out 3 million crazy points, but now that he leveled up crazy mode, it was basically zero. His net worth was less than 1 million crazy points, and most of his things were given to the Heavenly Clouds Empire. However, even if he sold all of them, he estimated that it would be 6 to 7 million crazy points, but it was too much of a loss. So many Saint tools, so many martial arts, if he sold them, it would be too much of a loss. The Saint tools sold in the shop were sold for 1 million crazy points, but it was only sold for more than 10,000 crazy points, which meant that even if he sold Saint tools, he would need to sell at least 300 of them. Heaven-level martial arts were sold at a price of more than 10,000 crazy point. Middle-grade martial arts were slightly more expensive, and the most expensive one was upper-grade martial arts, which was as high as 100,000 crazy points. It's just that the number of upper-grade sacred tools he had was relatively small. Of course, he gave all of them to EUA and the others, and he didn't leave anything for himself unless he sold the divine tools. One divine tool cost 1 million crazy points, but he was reluctant to sell it, it was too wasteful. 3 million crazy points, I should be able to get it soon. Etionyan shook his head. He planned to hunt higher-level demon beasts, which was undoubtedly the fastest solution. Perhaps these things were not as valuable as a finger of Shirshuiyun, but at the moment Shirshuiyun's situation was certainly not dangerous, so he was not in a hurry. If it was dangerous, he would have sold all of his belongings long ago, regardless of whether his opponent was a saint king or a divine king. It's almost time. The trial is about to start. If you want to buy, it will be too late. Yes, my martial god's robe can definitely take you to the sky, easily pass the trial, and get the reward. The power of my heavenly god's pill is even more amazing. It will be easy for you to climb the stairs. Absolutely no pressure. It was almost time to start, and the hawkers were shouting hard, but they didn't move, they didn't want to participate in the trial. The Heaven Realm's Heaven Ascending Divine Altar is very strict. There are great restrictions on age and cultivation level. One must be above the core condensation stage. Cultivation level within the core transformation stage does not include the core transformation stage. The age cannot be older than 30. These peddlers were already over 30 years old, and their cultivation level was already at the core transformation stage, so they could only come here to swindle money. They also had a good excuse to say that if they weren't too old, they would have already taken the treasures to participate in the trial. It's almost time, after giving him a good fortune, it's time to find a good place to hunt demon beasts and earn some crazy points. Etionyan nodded. Temporarily set this plan, or look at the wanted poster. There are still many ways to earn crazy points. 3 million crazy points was difficult to earn in the past, but now it's not bad. Chapter 662. Before Etionyan left, he plundered all of the peddler's treasures, not even leaving a single spirit stone. For a swindler, being able to survive in his hands was already good enough. So many treasures were equivalent to selling one's life. What swindler daring to deceive him? In the end, he even wanted to violently beat up Etionyan. He would definitely not be polite and take everything away, not leaving a single coin. Very soon, the peddler came back to his senses and found that he was swimming naked in the outermost river, completely unaware of what had happened. What am I doing? The peddler was dumbfounded, even his initial memories were gone. Etionyan made him lose even his previous memories, in order to make Hironkuan safer. Although the heaven realm was vast, it was very likely that they would meet, so he removed a part of the peddler's memory. At the same time, all the qualified cultivators on the Heaven Ascension Temple's side rushed inside. Etionyan followed them in. The environment here was no different from the Heaven Ascension Temple in the Netherworld. It was basically the same. Except for the teleportation runes on the top floor, there was no difference in the rest. This meant that the content of the trial was exactly the same, first climbing the ladder, then climbing the steps. There was no change. The only change was that those who successfully reached the top would be rewarded with martial arts. This was one of their biggest attractions. The trial not only could improve their cultivation, but they could also obtain martial arts as a reward. Why not? When Etionyan walked to the front of the passage, he immediately saw the familiar figure of the youth. I heard that you almost caused trouble just now? A middle-aged man complained to Hironkuan. No, disciple just saw that he was about the same age as disciple and felt that it was not easy to come here, so I just said a few words to persuade him. I didn't say much. Hironkuen lowered his head pitifully, like a child who had done something wrong. I didn't do anything, I just told you to ignore these swindlers. I didn't tell you to ignore others. If you provoke them, even I can't deal with them. Some of their cultivation is higher than your master's. Without a doubt, this man was Hironkuen's master, Wei Feijo. He had an expression of exasperation. His cultivation was not bad. He was at the third level of the core transformation stage. He could be considered a good teacher. However, his words were indeed true. If Hironkuen were to casually cause trouble outside, it would really be difficult for him to stop those hawkers. Some of the peddlers were at 7th or 8th level of core transformation stage. Some of them were normal, but most of them were swindlers. They just wanted to make a fortune and leave. In this day and age, those who were kind-hearted were the stupid ones. It was obvious that the force that Hironkuen belonged to was not a big one. Tianyun smiled knowingly. This was really difficult. So it turned out that she had decided to help because she saw that they were of the same age. Her heart was a bit pure. I'm sorry, master. I won't do it again. Hironkuen apologized profusely. Would there be a next time? Wei Feijo glared at him. No, there won't be a next time, Hironkuen hurriedly said. When Wei Feijo saw his disciple nodding seriously, he sighed and said, Ronkuen, master knows that you are kind-hearted, but people are evil now. Even if you help them, it doesn't mean that they will repay you. Except for your own family, you can't trust anyone else. Do you understand? I understand, master. Hironkuen nodded to show that he understood. It's good that you understand. Get ready, you will go up later. Wei Feijo smiled and patted Tianyun's shoulder. He said with a smile, perform well later. If you can't do it, just come down. I believe that you will definitely be able to climb higher this time. At least, you will be able to enter the top 300 step. I will. Hironkuen was full of confidence in himself. Then, from the corner of his eyes, he saw Tianyun walking towards him. He smiled and said, It seems that the hawker did not make things difficult for you. Thanks to your reminder, I was not cheated. Tianyun smiled and walked towards him. He did not say that he would not cheat. We didn't do anything. Why would he make things difficult for us? He didn't go around saying that he was cheating people. Naturally, he would not make things difficult for us. Could this be the friend that you tried to persuade? Wei Feijo frowned and looked at Tianyun from head to toe, but he couldn't see through Tianyun. Yes, this is the friend that I tried to persuade. Hironkuen smiled at Tianyun and said, That's great. The trial is about to begin. You can participate now. No, I won't participate. I just came to take a look. Tianyun smiled. He definitely wouldn't participate. There was no meaning to it. He was the owner of the heaven ascending altar. Why would he participate? Moreover, his cultivation had already broken through to Saint Ruler. The trial would not have any effect on him. At most, it would give him a few million or 10 million experience points. What meaning was there to him now? You're not participating? Hironkuen and Wei Feijo were shocked. Was he not going to participate? Most of the people who came here were either to train or to sell things outside. It was that simple. As for people who came here to stroll, it was really rare. Especially since Tianyun looked so young. They should have gone to train together. Wei Feijo's frown deepened. He looked at him and asked, Little friend, I wonder which sect you are from? Where is your master? Did he not come with you? I don't belong to any sect. I'm just a lone cultivator. I'm just strolling around. Tianyun smiled and said, Don't belong to any sect? A lone cultivator? Wei Feijo shook his head. He thought that Tianyun was a disciple of a powerful force. But it seemed that Tianyun was just strolling around. But even if he was strolling around, he still had to go for a trial. Since he was already here, it would be a waste if he didn't go. It would be a pity if I don't go. Hironkuen shook his head. He smiled and said, I almost forgot to introduce myself. I am Hironkuen. How should I address you, friend? Itianyun. Itianyun said simply. Itianyun? Hironkuen was startled. He murmured, Itianyun, Itianyun. This name sounds familiar. Familiar? Itianyun was a little confused. He smiled and said, maybe the names are overlapping. The world is so big. There should be many people with the same name. I remember now. When I was passing by the fallen feather mountain with Master, I saw a beautiful lady standing at the edge of the mountain. She was calling Tianyun's name. She said that she didn't know when Tianyun would see her again. I wanted to look at that lady more, but Master dragged me away. He said that I shouldn't look at her randomly. Otherwise, I might get myself killed. Hironkuen scratched his head in embarrassment. He smiled and said, maybe it's someone with the same name. I'm not sure if their surname is E. Anyway, they both call her Tianyun. Chapter 663. Tell me everything in detail. Tianyun's eyes flashed with surprise. He didn't expect to stumble upon some news by accident. Hironkuen had seen Shuiyun before. Although there were many people with the same name in the world, there was a high chance that it was Shuiyun. Actually, I didn't see it very clearly. The snow in the fallen feather mountain is too heavy. They can stand on the mountain for so long, so their cultivation is definitely not low. We didn't dare to look too much. Master knew this, so he hurriedly pulled me away. Hironkuen scratched his head and said, that's all. I just heard the two words Tianyun, which is quite similar to Brother Yi's name. The main thing is that the girl is too beautiful, so I just remembered. Fallen Feather Mountain. Tianyun's eyes flashed. He had heard a little about this place from the peddlers, but he didn't think that Shuiyun was staying here. It was possible that she was just passing by and took a rest on the way. Immediately, he took out a piece of paper and quickly drew Shuiyun's appearance on it. Then he showed it to Hironkuen. The girl you saw, did she look like this? Yes. That's her. Brother E, your drawing is too good. It seems that you know that fairy-like girl? Hironkuen said enviously. Yes, do you know where she is or what sect she is from? As long as you tell me, I will reward you handsomely. Tianyun's heart is a bit excited. His originally calm mood, at this moment there is a bit of surprise. Wei Feizhou, who was next to Tianyun, wanted to say something, but seeing Tianyun's proficiency in drawing such a portrait, it was obvious that he knew Shuiyun, and his expression immediately became dignified. Wei Feizhou was not a fool. He just always wanted to play it safe and didn't want to cause trouble everywhere. It didn't mean that he didn't know anything. He could see a lot of things from this. What, no sect? Could be made up. I'm not too sure about this. I only saw that they were like fairies. As for what sect they are from, I don't know. Hironkuen said embarrassedly. Judging from their clothes, this is the first time I've seen them. I didn't dare to say how many places I had seen, but I had seen most factions' attire. However, this was definitely the first time I had seen such a unique attire. It's very likely that they're from a hidden clan. Their most distinctive feature is that there's a light red plum blossom painted on their clothes, making them look otherworldly. I dare say that it's definitely a powerful hidden clan. At the very least, it's at the level of an empire. It's just that they've been living in seclusion, which is why we don't see them often. Wei Feizhou voiced out his judgment. He wasn't like his disciple, who only stared at their faces. Instead, he looked at every detail of them before making a judgment. If he wasn't someone to be trifled with, he would quickly drag his disciple away. He couldn't even look at him for too long. If one were to encounter an arrogant person, a few glances might cause the other party to gouge out one's eyes. Tianyun's gaze wandered. He couldn't help but look at Wei Feizhou in a higher light. It seemed like Wei Feizhou was a good teacher. It wasn't that he was too cold-blooded, but that the situation was too harsh, so he didn't dare to do good things casually. Sometimes it was easy to overreach oneself. Hidden clan, huh? He had considered hidden clans before, but since they were hidden clans, he knew very little about them. This way, the 7 or 8 forces that he had previously judged were immediately rejected. It saved him a lot of effort. However, he had a big piece of information, and that was the carving of plum blossoms. This was a rather significant feature. If he went to a bigger force and asked, he would be able to get the relevant information. Wei Feizhou was in a small force, so it was normal that he didn't know. Some hidden clans would only be heard of in the bigger forces. If anyone knew about it, then it wouldn't be a hidden clan. It's about to begin. Ronquan, hurry up and go in. Wei Feizhou hurriedly let his disciple in. The door was already slowly opening. If he went in now, the good spots would be snatched up. There were too many cultivators who met the requirements, so he had to hurry up. Ronquan nodded and rushed in. When he was about to go in, he couldn't help but say to Yi Tianyun, "Brother Yi, aren't you coming with us? We can't waste this opportunity." "There's no need. I said I would give you an opportunity, so I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm not here for a trial, but to give you an opportunity." Yi Tianyun smiled slightly. He had gained a lot this time. It was much better than asking those peddlers. This was a very accurate piece of information, which made him take care of them a little more. Repaying kindness had always been his principle. "Give me an opportunity?" Ronquan waved his hand and said helplessly, "If you don't go in, I'll go in first." With that said, he hurriedly went in. However, there were too many people, so it was difficult to squeeze in. A moment later, he felt a force spreading out from his side, forcefully squeezing out a path for him, allowing him to easily walk in. Although he was puzzled, he was still anxious. There were no good spots, so he hurriedly went in. Wei Feizhou was confused when he saw his disciple enter so easily. There were so many people, and he should have slowly squeezed in. Why was it so easy? "Let's go in and take a look," Yi Tianyun said calmly. "Let's see your disciple's potential. I wonder how high he can climb." As he said that, he walked in with his hands behind his back. Wei Feizhou was stunned, but he still followed. Just as he was about to say something, he felt the people squeezing in were pushed away by an invisible force. They did not even touch the hem of his clothes. This, Wei Feizhou was shocked. Although he could do this, he could not do it so smoothly. This meant that the young man in front of him had a higher cultivation level than him, or that his control was even more amazing. Soon, Yi Tianyun led him inside. They were not here to participate in the trial, but they could watch from the side. Inside was undoubtedly the countless stairs that led to the top. There were more than 1,000 levels. As soon as they entered, they heard quarreling sounds. "Kid, this spot is mine. If you know what's good for you, get out of my way," a handsome young man shouted at Ronquan. "I obviously got this spot first." With the help of Yi Tianyun, Ronquan was able to choose a good spot easily. Although this spot was very spacious, most people chose the middle spot, which was undoubtedly the best place to climb up. There were relatively few spots, so it was very popular. "If you say no again, believe it or not, I will throw you out of here," the young man said coldly. 2 core transformation stage cultivators rushed to the side and looked at Ronquan coldly. They wanted to scare him away. I. Ronquan just wanted to say something, but Yi Tianyun's indifferent voice sounded in his ears. Chapter 664. This is the young master of the Duo family. He belongs to a third-grade force, Wei Feizhou said hurriedly. And it is not an ordinary third-grade force. It is close to the power of an empire. Don't provoke him easily. Who are you, kid? Duo Jard looked at him coldly. How dare you talk to me like this? Do you know who I am? A third-grade force dares to be arrogant in front of me, Lee Tianyun said indifferently. I will give you one chance. Go somewhere else. I will protect him. I advise you not to force me to do anything. If your father kneels in front of me, I will kill you with one slap. Wei Feizhou's face turned pale. He did not expect this friend of his to be so arrogant. If he wanted to be arrogant, he would have to look at the guards around him. Even a random guard was much stronger than him. What if they fought? Yo, you're really arrogant. It sounds like you've destroyed an empire before. Dorjard's eyes turned cold, and killing intent surged in the depths of his eyes. Yes, I have destroyed an empire, Lee Tianyun said indifferently. Not to mention an empire, I have destroyed a divine kingdom. Pfft, the cultivator next to him suddenly laughed. He did not even prepare a draft when he boasted. It was really funny. Wei Feizhou wanted to cry. Wasn't he too arrogant? There were many powerful forces around. If he was in a different position, although it would not be good, it was still acceptable. This kid is the most arrogant I have ever seen. He has destroyed a divine kingdom? If he had destroyed a divine kingdom, I would still be a god king. The world is big. What kind of people are there? This kid is so arrogant. He will die soon. This is young Master Duojard. He is the eldest young master of the Duo family. His status is not low. This time, he has 2 core transformation stage guards accompanying him. He is really arrogant. The cultivators next to him laughed. They all thought that Lee Tianyun was going to die. Is that so? As if it is true. Break his hands and feet and throw him out. If you want my father to kneel in front of you, then kneel in front of me right now. Dorjard's smile faded and became extremely cold. He signaled his men to break Lee Tianyun's limbs. Yes, young master. The 2 core transformation experts sneered and surrounded Lee Tianyun, ready to break his hands and feet. When Wei Feizhou saw this, he braced himself and walked out. He said apologetically, Honorable young master, I'm really sorry. We were just talking nonsense. Please forgive us. We'll take them away now. This position belongs to you. Oh, it seems that you are their master? Dorjard looked at him coldly and said, Do you think it's useful to apologize now? Break their arms and legs and throw them out. The 2 core transformation stage cultivators flashed and rushed towards Lee Tianyun. Wei Feizhou shouted, Hurry up and leave. He had no choice but to bite the bullet. Otherwise, his hands and feet would be broken. He just wanted to clean up Lee Tianyun's mess. They had just met each other and they were already in trouble? Kneel down. Lee Tianyun looked around and saw the 2 core transformation stage cultivators kneel down in front of him. A terrifying force came from the sky and almost made them kneel to the ground. If the floor wasn't hard enough, they would have broken their knees. Although the floor wasn't broken, their knees were broken. Not only the 2 guards, but Dorjard also knelt down. Their knees were immediately broken. With the force of 1,000,000 Jin or even 10,000,000 Jin, it would be hard for them not to have their knees crushed. Ah! Dorjard screamed in pain. His knees were broken into powder. How could he not be in pain? The 2 guards were the same. Their bodies were drenched in cold sweat, and their complexions were frighteningly pale. Do you know who I am? I am from the house of Duolong. Crack. Dorjard's whole body was stuck to the ground. This time, not only his knees, but most of the bones in his body were broken. He was basically crippled. However, as long as there was a good ointment, he could easily recover. The problem was that he had broken so many bones. If he wanted to recover, he would have to lie in bed for a few months. Being unable to move for a few months, it was terrifying. Not only Dorjard, but even the 2 guards next to him were prostrating themselves on the ground. They were truly prostrating themselves on the ground. All the bones in their body were broken. No matter how strong a core transformation stage cultivator was, they would have to kneel down. The surrounding people were shocked when they saw this. These were 2 core transformation stage cultivators. They knelt down just like that. It was as if there was some magic in his tone that made them kneel down and bow down. Who would have thought that Tianyun used his powerful aura to make them kneel down instead of charming them? Even Wei Feizhou was shocked. Just what kind of power could do this? Why are you still in a daze? Others have already started. Why don't you start? Tianyun looked at Hironkuen, who was still in a daze. Okay. Hironkuen finally reacted and hurriedly began to climb up the stairs, layer by layer. Tianyun waved his hand and a wine table appeared on the side. He sat down and gestured to Tianyun. You also sit down. This will take some time. Let's sit down and watch. In the situation where there were so many people here, Tianyun still set up a wine table to drink. He was really leisurely and elegant. The problem was that doorguard and the other guards were still kneeling on the side. It was really exaggerated. If it was someone else, they would not dare to drink. Yes. Wei Feizhou sat down calmly and poured wine for Tianyun. From this, he could see that Tianyun's strength was very strong. It was absolutely amazing. Tianyun's strength was at least above the void spirit stage. If Tianyun didn't have this kind of strength, how could he use his aura to suppress a core transformation stage cultivator? At such a young age, it was very likely that Tianyun came from a big force. Tianyun slowly drank the wine and watched Hironkuen climb up the stairs step by step, trying to understand the power of the stairs. Of course, this staircase didn't contain any martial art. It was different from the ghost world, but it could help him improve his cultivation. If he wanted to learn martial arts, he must climb to the top. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any martial art. Tianyun looked at Wei Feizhou and smiled. He had to admit that Wei Feizhou was really smart. He didn't run away with his guards but stood in front of them. This proved that Wei Feizhou had a strong sense of responsibility. Chapter 665. There was a very strange scene in the hall. 2 people were sitting at a table, slowly tasting fine wine while watching many young talents climb the stairs. 3 of them were kneeling on the ground. The ground had long been dyed red with blood or drenched with sweat. It looked very terrifying. The other forces at the side couldn't help but sweat for them. Even though they knew they were from the House of Dragons, they were still so overbearing. Could it be that their background was really terrifying? Or were they disciples of Imperial forces or Scandinavian forces? The Imperial forces could still bear it, but if it was a Scandinavian force, the House of Dragons not only had to kowtow and apologize, but they also had to compensate. This was the terror of the power of a background. I am the young master of the House of Dragons. Why, you're dead! Dorjard roared. Being forced to kneel in front of so many people, one could imagine the humiliation in his heart. I'm dead? Tianyun shook his head and said, even now you're still so stubborn. You really can't be taught. It seems that you've always worshipped using force to suppress people. Now I'm suppressing you. I wonder when your people will arrive? As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying power turned into a palm from the side and slapped down on Tianyun from the air. Tianyun lightly swung his hand, and the huge golden palm was smashed into powder, turning into countless stars that drifted away. This attack was so terrifying to others, but in Tianyun's eyes, it was like a mosquito flying by. He easily slapped it away. Not bad. You've made our people kneel for so long. It seems that you're really coming for our House of Dragons. A middle-aged man walked out from the crowd. His aura was extremely strong, like a sharp sword stabbing into everyone's heart. As second elder, when Dorjard saw this person, he hurriedly shouted, "Second elder, save me! Coming for you? Do you think you're qualified?" Tianyun said indifferently, "It was you who came to find trouble first. The positions were decided by us first, and you still want to steal my position. Not only do you want to steal my position, but you also want to break my arms and legs? Since that's the case, I'll break your arms and legs first." These positions belong to those who are capable. What's wrong with that? The second elder said sternly, I know you have some ability, but you should know when to stop. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Second elder, kill him. Kill him for me. Dorjard roared. He did not want this matter to end so easily. How could such a great humiliation disappear just like that? Your young master wants to break my arms and legs, then throw me out. There's a possibility that I might die outside, and you're telling me to forget about it now? Tianyun said calmly, speaking of which, you said that you're not polite. How is that not polite? With just the two of you? He calmly tasted the wine with an indifferent expression. Wei Feizhou, who was beside him, was trembling in fear. The second elder in front of him was a void spirit stage expert, much stronger than him. They were simply not on the same level. You two? Soon, Wei Feizhou heard the problem. The second elder's face sank. Without saying anything, he immediately rushed towards Tianyun. With a casual wave of his hand, a long sword fell into his hand. With a flash of cold light, he slashed down as fast as lightning. One sword to break mountains and rivers. At the same time, a black shadow flashed behind Tianyun. Similarly, a sword light flashed behind him, and a cold aura instantly locked the two of them. A pincer attack. This was their plan. From the beginning, they had planned to do a pincer attack, not to negotiate. Making their young master kneel on the ground for so long, breaking many of his bones. Would they forgive Tianyun just because of this? This was simply impossible. If they didn't subdue Tianyun, Duolong Mansion's face wouldn't be worth it. They wouldn't even need to mingle outside. Wei Feizhou was so scared that he hurriedly stood up and subconsciously drew his sword to block the attack. However, Tianyun gently put down the wine and said in a majestic voice, Kneel. The two people who were rushing towards Tianyun with swords immediately felt a terrifying force falling from the sky. This force made them lose their balance and immediately pressed them to the ground. Boom! After heavily kneeling on the ground, at the same time, a crack sound was heard. Many of their bones were broken, and blood immediately flowed out from their knees. Even if they were void spirit stage experts, they still knelt on the ground and prostrated themselves. All the bones in his body made a cracking sound as they were crushed one by one. The crisp sound was enough to make one's hair stand on end. This was really terrifying. A dignified void spirit stage expert knelt down and couldn't even move. Just by kneeling down? Everyone fiercely sucked in a breath of cold air. If it was a core transformation stage expert, it would be fine. But now, two elders were easily suppressed? This meant that this young man's cultivation was even more amazing, or he was protected by a powerful expert. They felt that the latter was more likely. After all, Tianyun was so young, how could it be him? No matter who did it, it didn't matter anymore. The two elders of Duolong Mansion just knelt in front of the young man. On the contrary, the young man was still slowly tasting the wine with a calm face, as if what happened here had nothing to do with him. What are you so nervous about? Sit down and drink. Tianyun turned his head and looked at Hironkuen, who had climbed more than 200 steps. Not bad, his talent is very good. It seems that the disciple you have chosen is very talented. Hironkuen had climbed more than 200 steps, which was above average compared to the other disciples. Although it was not the top level, it looked quite stable, which meant that there was still a lot of potential to be excavated. That's... Wei Feizhou wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He was not as calm as Tianyun. How could he stay calm when the two elders were kneeling beside him? Now, the two elders finally knew what kind of existence they were facing. If Tianyun was able to suppress them so easily, it meant that he was very strong, or he had a powerful bodyguard. If it was a guard, he would at least be at the late Spirit King stage, or at least 7th layer Spirit King stage, to be able to suppress him with his aura. This meant that they were facing a very strong Spirit King stage expert. Although Duo Long Mansion's foundation was not bad, having a late Spirit King stage expert as an enemy was not a good thing. This time, Duo Jiata finally knew what kind of strong expert they were facing. Even the two strongest elders of Duo Long Mansion were kneeling in front of him. Based on this situation, doesn't it mean that even his father couldn't suppress Yi Tianyun? Chapter 666. Quiet. It was so quiet that it was terrifying. Everyone stared blankly at Yi Tianyun. They had no idea what Yi Tianyun's identity was. They all guessed that he might be a disciple of an empire or a divine nation. Both were possible. Otherwise, two Void Spirit stage experts were powerless to resist and were forced to kneel here. It was really shocking. This time, no one dared to make a sound. They didn't dare to look down on Yi Tianyun anymore. Those who were gloating over his misfortune obediently shut their mouths. Who knew if he would suddenly slap them? At that time, they would be forced to kneel like the people of Dragon Palace. That would be a joke. The most terrifying thing was that Yi Tianyun was calmly tasting the wine as if it had nothing to do with him. With one look, one could tell that he had experienced this many times. Otherwise, how could he be so calm? At this time, everyone remembered what Yi Tianyun had said before. Not to mention an empire, even a divine nation had been destroyed. Could it be true? An empire being destroyed was nothing, but a divine nation being destroyed, wasn't this a bit too exaggerated? Not bad, not bad. The further he goes, the more outstanding his level will be. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with He Ronquan. He felt that He Ronquan was a promising talent. At first, He Ronquan's level was above average. Later on, He Ronquan did not fall behind. Instead, He Ronquan caught up and climbed up step by step. This made him admire He Ronquan a bit more. His talent was definitely not low. If his talent was too low, it would be difficult for him to climb up. Of course, it would be easier for those with high cultivation. The problem was, those with high cultivation would not be low. The two were not contradictory, but coexisted. Those with high cultivation would definitely not be low in talent. Those who were too slow would not be able to break through. However, there were exceptions to everything. Those who were a bit slow would still be able to break through after being pelted with all kinds of miraculous pills. Yes, it's a pity that my ability is limited. Otherwise, he would definitely turn into a dragon. Wei Feizhou sighed. Such a good disciple, but the lack of resources was also a problem. Don't worry, I will give him a good fortune. Yi Tianyun smiled and did not continue. Wei Feizhou didn't ask any further. His eyes flickered as he realized that he was now looking forward to the word good fortune. Previously, Zhang Xian had thought that he was bragging, but from the looks of it now, he wasn't bragging but was telling the truth. In the following period of time, the people of the multi-dragon house were all lying on the ground. No matter how much they roared, it was useless. On the contrary, those who roared were pressed down even further. Even their mouths were pressed against the ground, and they could only make woo-woo sounds. His ruthless methods caused one's hair to stand on end. If he continued to press him against the ground, even his teeth would be crushed. This was considered light. At least he was still alive. Time passed quickly. Climbing this place wasn't going to end so quickly. It would take at least a few days. In just a few days, He Ronquan had climbed to more than 800. His speed was quite impressive, and he even made it to the top 5. Based on this, he would definitely be able to enter the first round of the trial. According to the results of the trial, entering the top 30 would be considered a success. He was already in the 5th place, so he didn't feel any pressure at all. He didn't even need Yi Tianyun's help. He can easily enter the first round. His talent is really amazing. Who the hell are you? How dare you do this to my people? At this time, a middle-aged man walked out from the crowd. He was extremely angry, and his Spirit King stage cultivation instantly erupted. His aura swept across the crowd. However, most of the people present were not weak. Some of them were at Void Spirit stage, while others were at Spirit King stage. Most of them were at Core Transformation stage. They were either guards or disciples, but they didn't dare to provoke Tianyun. The middle-aged man in front of Tianyun was the leader of the multi-dragon house, Duo Jiuan. Although his cultivation was not low, he was at the second layer of Spirit King stage, but in Tianyun's eyes, he could easily kill him. Friend, I don't know what Duo Jiuan has done, but you are not giving multi-dragon house any face by doing this. At this time, another Spirit King stage expert stood out. He was also a member of the multi-dragon house, and obviously, he was the Great Elder. Two Spirit King stage experts released their aura and rushed towards Tianyun. Wei Feizhou's face sank. Sure enough, things have gotten out of hand, and it seems like it won't end well. But seeing Tianyun can still be so calm, it makes him sigh. Obviously he is a person who has seen a lot of things. He wants to break my arms and legs, is that enough? Tianyun said indifferently. I just want him to have a taste of his own medicine. Even if I break your arms and legs, so what? Duo Jiuan said coldly. No matter who you are, you will die today. I will break your bones inch by inch and then feed you to the dogs. This ruthless method was exactly the same as his son's. Most of the time, he spoke with brute force and was unreasonable. As for being unreasonable, Tianyun liked it very much. Kneel down and talk. Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and their eyes immediately blurred. Both of them were at the fifth layer of Spirit King stage, so he could easily control them with his eye of charm. Yes. The two Spirit King stage experts knelt down in front of Tianyun, which surprised everyone. Even Spirit King stage experts couldn't withstand the pressure? Wasn't this a little too abnormal? Wei Feizhou was so shocked that he stood up. He didn't even notice that the wine in his cup had spilled. Even a Spirit King stage cultivator had to kneel down? What kind of power was this? He thought that the Spirit King stage was the peak of the Spirit King stage, but now it seems like it's the peak of the Spirit King stage. But how can a Spirit King stage expert make an early Spirit King stage expert kneel down? Wei Feizhou didn't have such a cultivation, so he couldn't imagine the difference in strength between them. Oh my God! What did I just see? All the experts of the multi-dragon house are kneeling in front of me. The House of Multiple Dragons has really kicked an iron plate. It's too scary. What kind of cultivation does he have to have such ability? I'm afraid he's at the peak of the Spirit King stage, or is he a Saint King? Holy King stage. This is too scary. Is the Holy King nearby? Their hearts trembled fiercely. They had never seen a Saint King before. Saint Kings were all high and mighty existences, and they were often elusive existences that could not be seen. Generally, Saint King stage experts were the divine nation's masters or emperors. How could they see a Holy King stage expert? Although the heaven-ascending divine altar was a good place, Holy King stage experts wouldn't come here. Even if the divine nation sent people here to train, they would be accompanied by core transformation stage experts or void spirit stage experts. Do you believe that if I kill you, your father won't dare to say a word? Tianyun looked at Duo Jiuan indifferently. Chapter 667. Even his father and the Great Elder were kneeling on the side, as if they had gone silly, obediently kneeling on the ground, not uttering a single word of complaint. Only now did Duo Jiada realize that he was in big trouble, and it was a very serious one. All the experts of the Duo Long Mansion came out, but it was still useless. They were all suppressed by Yun, who was almost the same age as him. Woo! 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 Dalgard cried out in terror, but he found that he could only make this sound. He could not make any other sound and could only make a whimper. Originally, I just wanted to punish you, but who knew that your whole family is so arrogant? You think you can bully people just because you have a strong background? The weak are prey to the strong, but now it's my turn to eat you. Are you ready? Lee Tianyun said indifferently. He hated people who bullied people just because they had a strong background. There were many things that belonged to those who were capable. This was not wrong. But this kind of arrogant person who broke the legs of others was really not something he should be angry with. Since they wanted to play the game of the strong, he was very happy to do so. If he couldn't solve it with one punch, then he would solve it with 2 punches. Woo, woo, woo. Duo Jiada screamed again, as if he was begging for mercy. That's enough, get out of here. Don't stain this place with blood. Lee Tianyun waved his hand, and immediately, Duo Jiyuan and the Great Elder stood up and grabbed Duo Jiada and left. Without a doubt, Duo Jiyuan and the Great Elder were going to take care of them. There was nothing more ruthless than this. This was the price they had to pay for what they did. Suddenly, the place became very quiet. Duo Jiyuan dragged his son out by himself. This scene was really unimaginable, and no one knew what happened. No matter what happened, no one dared to say a word. They all obediently kept their mouths shut. As for some of the more powerful divine nations' powers, they wouldn't provoke experts if they had nothing better to do. Even if they relied on their own strength, no one was willing to provoke a strong enemy. I'm the Zhuo Qiu Divine Nations Patrol Envoy. I've brought a bottle of wine with me. Would you like to have a drink with me? A Spirit King stage expert came over with a bottle of wine in his hand. Of course, those who come are guests, please sit. Lee Tianyun gestured for him to sit down. As long as they didn't provoke him, he would be happy to make friends with them. Thank you, friend. The Oracle of the Zhuoqiu Holy Kingdom poured him a cup of wine and asked, Friend, which holy kingdom are you from? I don't belong to any sect. You don't have to investigate my background. I don't belong to any sect, at least in the heaven realm. Lee Tianyun said indifferently. The Zhuoqiu Holy Nation's oracle's eyes lit up. Just this sentence alone was enough for him to understand a lot of things. It meant that Lee Tianyun did not have any influence here. It meant that he had influence in the netherworld. They didn't think about the mortal realm. The mortal realm was relatively ordinary. How could it have such powerful guards or power? It seems that friend is not from the heaven realm. May I know if you are willing to come to my holy kingdom as a guest? The oracle of the Zhuoqiu Holy Kingdom immediately invited Lee Tianyun. The small forces were afraid of Lee Tianyun, but the Holy Kingdom was not. I am the divine envoy of the Rain-Autumn Divine Kingdom. This is a specialty of our Holy Kingdom, Autumn Rain Divine Pill. As long as you soak it in water or wine, it will taste even better. It will have a refreshing taste. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. As he spoke, he threw it into the wine cup. The wine in the wine cup immediately changed and became incomparably fragrant. Just the smell alone was very fresh, and the taste was definitely better when drunk. I am the divine envoy of the Dream Cloud Divine Kingdom. This is our, one by one, the divine envoys of the divine kingdoms and empires came to present their treasures to Lee Tianyun. As divine envoys, they knew how to communicate with others. They could smell the aura of a powerful force, so they immediately came to make friends with Lee Tianyun. Lee Tianyun could easily suppress so many Spirit King stage experts, so how could he be weak? No matter what, they had to rope him in as it would be a great help to their forces. Wei Feizhou, who was at the side, also received quite a lot of benefit. Some were given pills or weapons. Since Wei Feizhou is sitting next to Lee Tianyun, they must have some kind of relationship with Lee Tianyun. Wei Feizhou was dumbfounded. He never thought that he would receive such treatment. There were so many divine envoys in front of him, and each of them had higher cultivation than him, but they still flattered him like this. Now, he was not in a dream, but in reality. Lee Tianyun did not hesitate and accepted them one by one. It was not a bad thing to make friends with the Divine Kingdom's forces. Well, you are too polite, I will visit you when I have time. Lee Tianyun smiled indifferently, which is equivalent to accepting their kindness. Each of the god envoys wore a smile on their faces. Even though it was a pity that they couldn't come over immediately, they could at least give him some gift. Moreover, the things they gave out weren't particularly valuable. They were just ordinary things. But for those with lower cultivation, they were treasures. Wei Feijiu was dazzled by the gifts, and he didn't dare to accept them. He planned to give them back to Yi Tianyun later. At this time, the climbing of the stairs was almost over. Soon, He Ronkuan successfully reached the top with the third place. The talent of the top two was even more amazing, and Yi Tianyun couldn't help but look up to them, especially the first place. However, he only took a glance at it. He didn't have any other intentions. These were the disciples of the Divine Kingdom's forces. If they didn't even have this kind of talent, then there was no value in cultivating them. It's almost time, let's go and watch the next one. Yi Tianyun stood up and put away the things on the table. At this time, there were almost 30 people standing on the top. After the 30th trial taker went up, it meant that this place was officially over. The rest of the cultivators who were climbing were immediately kicked out and couldn't continue to climb. The rest of them could only wait, but they couldn't go up and watch. They were completely blocked outside. This place was much stricter than the Netherworld. The next time they could meet was when the final trial ended and they were teleported out. Let's go up and see the results. Yi Tianyun walked forward with his hands clasped behind his back. But we can't go up. If we go up, we will be stopped. Before Wei Feijiu could finish his words, he saw that Yi Tianyun had already walked up without any obstruction. This scene stunned everyone. Didn't they say that they couldn't go up? All of you, come up. Don't you want to know the situation of the people you brought? Yi Tianyun said to the other Divine Kingdom's divine envoys. Chapter 668. When Yi Tianyun went up unimpeded, everyone was stunned. No one had been able to go up, so many people didn't know what was going on inside. Unless it was a trial taker, but only 30 trial takers could go up, so if they wanted to know, they could only find out from their mouth. Now that he could go up, it was really shocking. In the past, he would be bounced back after trying to force his way up. Now that Yi Tianyun could easily go up, it immediately made people dumbfounded. Wei Feijiu was stunned, then quickly followed up, and found that he was really fine. What are you all standing there for? If you don't come up, when the door closes, you won't have a chance to come up. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Go, we want to go up and take a look. A group of people rushed up like crazy, who knew that just as they rushed up, they would be bounced back by the light screen. Some weren't prepared and were bounced back, rolling a few times, almost vomiting blood. Some could really go up, and easily went up, just like Wei Feijiu and the others. After that, many people went up one after another, but there were also many who couldn't go up. At this time, they realized that those who could go up with Yi Tianyun were all people who had gone up to befriend. Some God Nation powers didn't want to befriend them, or some didn't dare to befriend them, so they couldn't go up. They could only watch as Yi Tianyun brought a group of people up, all of whom were previously respectful. However, although the respectful powers were God Nations, it didn't mean that they were very powerful God Nations, so they would still lower their heads to befriend them. Some overbearing powers, such as the top 10 or top 5, they wouldn't lower their heads to befriend them. Although Yi Tianyun was strong, it wasn't to the point where he had to lower his head. What's going on? Could he be related to Heaven Ascension God Hall, a descendant of a God King? A thought immediately appeared in their minds. Perhaps this was the only way they could let someone go up, right? When they came back to their senses, it was already too late. Yi Tianyun had already left with his people to observe the situation inside. They couldn't follow him up, so they could only wait here foolishly. At this time, they were filled with regret. If he was a descendant of a God King, this qualification would be even greater. This way, he would have a lot of inheritances. How could it not be tempting? It's over. If the lords find out about this, I'm definitely dead. How is that possible? That kid might be a descendant of a divine king? Why is it impossible? If it's impossible, how can he control the divine inscriptions here? Their intestines were green with regret. If they had kept a low profile before, they might have been able to go up now. Actually, it didn't matter whether he could go up or not. What was important was that he could make friends with the descendants of the God King, who didn't covet the heaven ascension divine altar, who didn't covet the inheritance. It was just that they never had the chance to obtain it. Now that he had a chance, but he missed it, how could he not regret it? Although that was the case, many people had some devious thoughts in their hearts. However, when they recalled how Tianyun had easily suppressed so many spirit kings, their hearts turned cold again. Many forces still obediently put away these thoughts. More importantly, as a descendant of the divine king, it was hard to guarantee that he had other powers. Could it be that he was able to make so many experts kneel down because this is his territory? It's possible. This place is under his control. Of course, he can use his power to suppress everything. If he goes out, I'm afraid he won't have the chance to show off. If this news gets out, then it's a big piece of meat. It's hard to guarantee that some forces in the dark will do some sneaky things behind his back. Many people immediately thought of the power that suppressed the spirit kings before. It's very likely that it came from this heaven ascension divine altar. Tianyun is so young. How could he have such a heaven-defying power? Or did he not rely on external forces? For a time, some people showed a disdainful expression. The voices here were heard by Tianyun, who was in front of him, and he smiled faintly. He didn't expect that there would be people who have crooked thoughts about him. But he was still very happy now. Originally, he wanted to give himself an identity to make things easier for him. Who knew that there would still be people who have crooked thoughts about him? But in this case, he didn't mind eradicating some big forces to show his strength and earn some crazy points and experience. If he directly killed them, not only would he not get any benefits, he would also lose some experience. To put it bluntly, he can't kill indiscriminately. Many of the divine envoys who followed behind Tianyun were shocked speechless. They also thought of many things in this regard. They speculated that Tianyun may be the descendant of the heaven-creating divine king, or the inheritor. Wei Feizhou really knew what good fortune is. Why did he keep looking at Heronkuan? It turns out that this place is under his control. How can he not control it at will? If he wants to go up, he can go up, and if he doesn't want to go up, he can make them roll down. Young Master these things. Wei Feizhou even changed the way he addressed Tianyun, and at the same time, he handed over the tribute. You keep these, they are useless to me. Tianyun shook his head and motioned him to keep them. Thank you, young master. Wei Feizhou was very grateful, and his attitude has become a lot more humble. He felt that even if he was Tianyun's servant, he would be considered to be climbing up the social ladder. The descendant of the heaven-creating divine king might not even be a servant. Excuse me, are you a descendant of the heaven-creating divine king, or an inheritor or something? One of the divine envoys mustered up the courage to come over and ask. You can say that, inheritor. Tianyun said truthfully. He didn't hide anything. He originally wanted to use this identity. If he didn't have any identity, others would think that his status was too low and wouldn't deal with him. The reason why he did this was very simple. It would make it easier for him to find Shuiyun. Otherwise, why would he go to their door to ask about things? Was he going to rush up and punch them to death and then interrogate them? Killing indiscriminately will reduce his experience. The sin value of the other party is not high, and killing them would be a loss for him. Inheritor! They were startled, and immediately their eyes showed a fanatical look. They had never seen an inheritor before, and now that there was an inheritor, they undoubtedly became more enthusiastic. Tianyun didn't say much and led them inside. Soon, they came to the towering steps inside. Hironkuen and the others have already begun to climb up. After all, after they were teleported in, they will continue the trial. However, when they saw Tianyun and the others come in, they were really stunned. Wasn't it impossible for them to come in? How can someone come in? Let's continue to watch here and see how many people can go up. Tianyun smiled slightly, and once again summoned a few wine tables. Let everyone sit down together to taste the wine and watch the trial. It's just that everyone's thoughts are different now. Chapter 669. Hironkuen climbed up quickly. Even in the second trial, he was still in the lead. Although he was not in the first place, it was already very good to be able to enter the top 3. Tianyun watched them climb up slowly. He originally wanted to help them, but now it seemed that apart from the initial help, there was no need for his help later. Hironkuen's level was very good, and he did not need his help at all. At first, he thought that Hironkuen's level was average, so he would help him. Even if Hironkuen was below the 30th place, he would help him advance smoothly. The second trial was the same. If he couldn't advance, he would slightly reduce the difficulty. These things did not need to be particularly strict. Anyway, it was not the selection of an inheritor, so there was no need to be too strict. Of course, now there was no need for his help. Hironkuen could climb up smoothly and still remain in the top 3. This kind of performance was really impressive. The other messengers did not ask Tianyun anything. His answer just now had proved everything. As for what they were thinking now, it was not clear. Most people's thoughts were not on the disciples they sent out. Although these trials were important, to obtain martial arts, one must be ranked at the top in order to obtain the martial arts bestowed by the heaven-ascending divine altar. Although the martial arts obtained were not bad, they were definitely not the best. Therefore, these martial arts were basically the type of snacks, not the role of a big meal. Now that there was an inheritor here, it meant that there was a lot of martial arts inheritance. Many of the martial arts of the heaven-creating divine king were amazing, especially his attainments in divine inscriptions. It was absolutely second to none. For this reason, many people tried to obtain this inheritance, but they could not do so. Now there was a chance, so their eyes were not on their own disciples, but on Tianyun, thinking about how to pry something out of his mouth. Young Master I wonder if you can pass on some of the inheritance to us? Of course, we will not ask for it for free. We will give you an absolutely generous reward. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. One of the messengers finally couldn't sit still and immediately got up and said, "We also want a little inheritance. We don't need much, just a small part. The reward is absolutely negotiable." One by one, they fought to be the first to stand up, wanting to exchange for some inherited martial art. With one person taking the lead, the people behind naturally followed suit. Tianyun was not surprised by their excitement at all. Instead, he said lightly, "I do have a lot of inheritance, but do you think the heaven-creating divine king is a fool to let me spread it out at will? There are many inheritances that cannot be divulged. I believe you all understand this." All of them looked at each other. This kind of inheritance restriction was extremely common, but if it was like this, how were they going to take the inheritance out? Suddenly, they felt a little discouraged. Naturally, some of the martial arts might be difficult, but in terms of divine inscriptions, I can still make the decision. Tianyun calmly replied, "You guys can casually spread this information out. I'm sure you guys are most interested in the inheritance of divine inscriptions, right? The most brilliant achievement of the heaven-creating divine king was his divine inscriptions, not his martial arts. The most famous cultivation martial art was definitely not in the hands of the heaven-creating divine king. Of course, the heaven-creating divine king's martial arts were equally coveted. It's just that the most famous was not in the hands of the heaven-creating divine king, but in the hands of other divine kings. The heaven-creating divine king was most famous for his divine inscriptions. That was the divine inscription of the Creator, so of course the value was different. In the three realms, there were only 3 divine inscriptionists at the Creator level, and the heaven-creating divine king was one of them. There was no trace of the other 2, and only the heaven-creating divine king left the inheritance, so the meaning was naturally different. If that's the case, that's great. In this way, we are also willing to exchange for the inheritance with rewards. It will definitely satisfy you. We are the same, we don't need to cultivate martial arts, we just want the inheritance of divine inscriptions. One by one, the originally disappointed divine envoys jumped up again, and their faces were flushed with excitement. This was the purpose of their coming here, to strive for the top ranking. Wasn't it to see if they could get the inheritance of divine inscriptions? It was a pity that after trial, no one had obtained it, and it was estimated that no matter how many trials there wouldn't be any. In fact, it was true that there wouldn't be any. The reward was a good martial art, the worst was a high-grade earth level, and the best was a heaven-level martial art. For ordinary forces, it was equivalent to a treasure falling from the sky. No, I don't want your reward, I just need a piece of information. Tianyun swirled the wine in his hand, still with a calm expression. A piece of information? Everyone looked at each other, they had never heard of such a reward, and they all thought that it would be exchanged with a lot of elixirs or weapons. Next to him, Wei Feizhou's heart trembled, and he already had a rough guess. Yes, a piece of information, Tianyun said indifferently. Help me find a hidden family wearing white clothes with a light red plum blossom embroidered on the clothes. Whoever gives me the most comprehensive information, I will give the inheritance of divine inscriptions to him. Don't worry, I won't renege on the debt, and I won't just give you some rubbish divine inscriptions. I will give you a very good divine inscriptions inheritance. Of course, if you randomly find information to fool me, then don't blame me for being impolite. Tianyun's gaze turned cold, piercing straight into the depths of their hearts, causing them to shiver. Could it be that this young man in front of them didn't rely on the Heaven Ascension Divine Altar to suppress them, but was relying on his own strength? A single gaze from him was enough to make their hearts turn cold, as though they were facing a saint king. Tianyun slowly sipped his wine again and retracted his gaze. Everything was as normal as before. This was the reason why he revealed his identity. He didn't have a soul guide, but he had the ability. As long as he revealed his identity, the envoys would all come to him. At that time, he would get a group of people to investigate. With so many divine nations, he didn't believe that they wouldn't be able to find a mere hidden family. Sometimes, it wasn't necessary to rely on the system. There were so many cultivators in the real world, and it would be much easier to find them. As for the inheritance of divine inscriptions, he definitely wouldn't give them the most important ones. A few mid-grade divine inscriptions would suffice. If he really wanted to give them high-grade divine inscriptions, it wouldn't matter. In any case, these weren't particularly important, and wouldn't be as important as exchanging information about Shuiyun. Wei Feizhou nodded his head. Indeed, it was as he had guessed, they were here to find that woman. Chapter 670. A clan with a light red plum blossom on their robes. Everyone racked their brains to think of this characteristic. They wanted to think of who could have this kind of clothing. They wanted to think of it immediately so that they could immediately bring back the divine inscription inheritance. At that time, they would be able to make a great contribution. All kinds of rewards would come one after another. Just thinking about it made them excited. It was just that no matter how they racked their brains, they couldn't think of any impression. As divine envoys who often dealt with other forces, they must have seen many forces. Now, no matter how they thought, they couldn't think of any information. Under such circumstances, they were silent for a few hours, but still couldn't think of any information. Don't worry, I'll give you enough time to think. During this period, I will stay at the heaven-ascending divine altar and wait for you to come. Whoever brings the accurate information first, I will give the inheritance to that person. Tianyun looked at them indifferently and said, Of course, if the time difference is not too big, I will give you another small reward. I won't let you come here for nothing. The time difference here is not too big, which means within half a day. After this time, even if the answer is accurate, there will be no reward. He wasn't a charity organization. If he could get a reward at any time, he would lose a lot, no matter how long the time limit was, and if the answer was the same, he would give a reward. The main reason was that he didn't want them to come here for nothing. He was still a very kind person. To others, things like divine inscriptions were not something they would be willing to give away even if they died. To him, this was really not a big deal. Anyway, it was just some information. It was not a big deal to spread it, it was not like he was giving away a divine artifact. Seeing that you want to say something, what do you want to say? Tianyun looked at Wei Feizhou and said, Young master, it's like this. I can draw the hidden clan you want to find for you. Wei Feizhou said, Sure. Tianyun smiled faintly and said, That couldn't be better. Immediately, Wei Feizhou took out a piece of paper and began to draw on it. After a moment, a lifelike portrait of a person appeared in front of everyone's eyes. What came into view was a beautiful woman. She was tall and slender, and her long robe fell to the ground. There was a faint plum blossom painted on the robe, and other than that, there were no other special symbols. Not only did he have the appearance of the characters, he even drew the surrounding scenery, including the other people. This was equivalent to depicting all the scenes in a scene in great detail. Not bad. Tianyun smiled. I didn't expect your painting skills to be so good. To tell you the truth, before I started cultivating, I was a painter who specialized in drawing portraits for others. Wei Feizhou smiled. Very good. Tianyun pushed the paper forward and said indifferently, This is what I'm looking for. Now that you have more information, it'll be easier to find. All of them widened their eyes to see it clearly. Some of them even made a copy of it, making an exact copy so that they could search for it. Good. We will go and gather some information now. Young Master E, please wait for a moment. Immediately, a divine emissary stood up and left. He quickly walked outside, not intending to wait for his disciples to finish their training. To them, the most important thing now was to gather information and obtain the inheritance. This was more important than anything else. As for the rest, they could do whatever they wanted. They would not die anyway. This place was not as strict as the Netherworld. In the end, they would indeed compete with each other, but it would not be a life-and-death battle. As long as they chose to surrender, they would be teleported out immediately. It was not like before, where they had to run to the edge and jump off to truly admit defeat. In the blink of an eye, many divine emissaries left to search for information. Some did not leave. Those were of considerable power, but they were probably not very good at gathering information. They could only choose to stay here. Tianyun watched them leave as he slowly savored the fine wine. Everything was under his control. This is your reward. Tianyun took out an inferior-grade sage artifact and threw it over. It landed in Wei Feizhou's hands. When Wei Feizhou held it, his heart trembled. He said in disbelief, Young master, isn't this a little too precious? He had only drawn a picture casually. He felt that he was already very happy that Tianyun could give him such treatment. Thus, he wanted to draw everything as a reward for Tianyun, who knew that he would get a sage artifact. The cultivators at the side stared with their eyes wide open. They also did not dare to believe it. Just by drawing a picture, he could easily get a sage artifact. The extent of his generosity made them dumbfounded. They wished that they could draw a picture like this so that they could get a sage artifact. It's nothing precious. The person who helped me will definitely not mistreat you, Tianyun said calmly. But that was just a casual drawing. A sage artifact. He had seen sage artifacts before, but he was not qualified to get one. If it was a third-grade faction, a sage artifact would be the treasure of the faction. Now, he was casually throwing it to him as if it was a piece of trash. It was really shocking. I said I'll give it to you. Why are you being so long-winded? Tianyun said calmly. If you don't like it, you can throw it to your disciple. No, that's not what I meant. I just think it's too precious. Since that's the case, thank you, young master. Wei Feizhou was extremely excited. This was a sage artifact. The thing that others dreamed of was now in his hands. How could he not be excited? At this moment, he was completely convinced. No wonder Tianyun was not moved by the gifts from the god messengers. Compared to the sage artifact, those gifts were really trash. The god messengers would not give out sage artifacts. They all wanted sage artifacts, so how could they give out sage artifacts? Tianyun was still slowly drinking the wine. Just as he said, as long as they helped him, he would give them generous rewards. He would definitely not mistreat anyone. Time passed quickly. Soon, someone reached the top. Hironkuin fell behind a little, falling from the top 3 to the top 5. But overall, it was still okay. After all, they had plenty of time. They just needed to wait for the final trial to end. This process did not last too long. They could climb the stairs for at most 3 days. Those who did not climb after 3 days were judged to have failed. In the end, Hironkuin successfully reached the top as the 5th person. In the end, only 8 people could successfully climb to the top. The number of people was immediately cut by more than half. As for the remaining 8 people, they could enter the final trial. That was, they would continue to compete until the first place was chosen. The top 3 could obtain rewards, but there were basically no rewards for the rest. Chapter 671. In the end, the battle began as scheduled. Many people outside were watching this battle. Just like Tianyun, he was fighting with someone else. Although many people couldn't come in, they could fly up and watch from afar. They didn't need to get close to see clearly. Now these 8 people were the real protagonists, but that was only relative to the people outside. For the people inside, Tianyun was the real protagonist. As the battle began, the atmosphere was pushed to the peak. Even if there were no people on the same side, they were all watching from the side. They wanted to see who would win in the end. After all, there were so many talented disciples. The final winner must be an amazing genius. Immediately, they fought crazily, each using their own abilities to fight. At this time, Hironkuin's disadvantage was revealed. He didn't need to rely on any martial arts or weapons before, but now it was different. Without good martial arts and weapons, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Many of the people present were geniuses with status. They were all geniuses from big forces, so they had many treasures. Hironkuin was forced to retreat again and again. His opponent's cultivation was slightly higher than his, and his weapon was also better than his. In this situation where the background was not equal, his opponent was firmly suppressing him. He couldn't fight back at all. If this continued, it was very likely that he would lose. Haha, you will definitely lose this battle. Hironkuin's opponent laughed and said, I thought you would have a high-grade soul tool or above. Who knew that it was just a broken low-grade soul tool? You still dare to come up and fight? Go back and drink your milk. I won't lose. Hironkuin waved his sword angrily. Even if it was a normal low-grade soul tool, he would still fight it. If you want to win, you can't just shout. You have to rely on good weapons and good martial arts. Do you understand? Poor bastard. His opponent laughed at him, but he was even happier. How could he not be happy to meet a poor bastard? This way, he could easily deal with him. Before, he had been suppressed by Hironkuin, which made him feel very unsatisfied. Now that he was beaten back, he felt very happy. Hironkuin is really at a disadvantage. The martial arts he practiced are only mid-grade Earth-level martial arts, and it was not easy to get it. Furthermore, his weapon is a low-tier soul artifact. It's the best we have. Wei Feizhou was extremely anxious. If this were to continue, his disciple would lose. Although getting 8th place was not bad, it was really unjust to lose in other aspects. However, this was the truth. He was inferior to others in many aspects. So what if his talent was not bad? In the end, he would still lose to those with shocking backgrounds. It's good enough that he's able to do this. But since I said I'd give him a chance, I'll give him a chance. He didn't lose in terms of talent, but in terms of weapons. Yi Tianyun shook his head and said, "There is no such thing as fairness in this world, it all depends on your own luck. And right now I'm his luck." He moved his fingers, and a beam of light shot out from Wei Feizhou's hand and landed in He Rongkuan's hand in the blink of an eye. He Rongkuan had just reacted when he realized that he was holding a sacred artifact in his hand. He was so frightened that he took a few steps back. He said in astonishment, "Saint Tool?" He and his master had seen a sacred artifact before, but they had never touched it before. Saint Tool? The other party was stunned. He was holding a high-grade soul artifact, which is considered a pretty good weapon. But compared to a low-grade sacred artifact, it's simply trash. "Did you say that I'm poor? Can I beat you this time?" He Rongkuan's gaze turned cold. His entire aura changed. He quickly attacked fiercely and easily defeated the other party in 2 to 3 moves. With the help of a powerful weapon, he completely crushed his opponent. Thank you for your help, young master." Wei Feizhou was extremely excited when he saw He Rongkuan win. "No need to thank me. I said I'd give him a chance. This time, he'll make up for the gap between him and the others. But the rest will depend on his own ability. He could only help up to this point. If he lost the next round, then there was nothing he could do. After all, if they were to fight, it wasn't just a difference in weapons. There was also a difference in combat experience. Now that he had made up for the gap, there was nothing he could do if he lost again. "That's enough. Thank you very much, young master." Wei Feizhou knew the gap between them. As long as he could make up for the gap, a fair and square battle would be enough. Yi Tianyun nodded and continued to watch the battle. Everyone else was speechless. This was simply against the rules. He could even send weapons up on the way. However, this was his territory. He could do whatever he wanted. It was already good enough that he didn't chase everyone away. Soon after, He Rongkuan successfully entered the top 4 and prepared for the next battle. During this period they all rested. Yi Tianyun sat at the side and waited for the news. In the blink of an eye they had rested enough. The next battle continued. As long as He Rongkuan won this battle, he would definitely be able to enter the top 3 in one go. If he lost, he could only stay in the 4th place. For Wei Feizhou, the fact that his disciple could obtain such a ranking was already beyond his expectations. Previously, the goal given to He Rongkuan was to climb more than 500 steps. It wasn't a very high standard. Now, not only did he climb so many steps, but he also successfully passed 2 trials. This was already beyond his expectations. When the battle was about to begin, a god's messenger rushed over from outside. His face was full of excitement. When the other forces saw the god's messenger, they all looked at him enviously. From the god's expression, there was no doubt that the god's messenger had found some information. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed back. If he didn't collect any information, he definitely wouldn't have rushed back. After all, there was no point in coming back. "Master, the Zhuoqiu Holy Kingdom has found relevant information." The god's messenger excitedly took out a piece of paper and passed it to Yi Tianyun. "That's fast." Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He took the paper and opened it. The other forces couldn't help but look over. However, all they saw was a blur. It was completely blocked by a spiritual force. However, they didn't dare to use their spiritual consciousness to investigate. If they did, they might anger Tianyun and be in trouble. The content on the paper was relatively simple. Tian Mei Divine Clan. Tian Mei Divine Clan was one of the hidden clans in the Heaven Realm. They lived in seclusion in the Tian Mei Mountains and rarely left their homes. There were very few rumors about them in the outside world. Their preliminary judgment was that the Tian Mei Divine Clan was probably one of the lower middle Holy Kingdom forces. A long time ago, the Tian Mei Divine Clan was very prosperous. Chapter 672. Tian Mei Divine Clan? Tianyun said. This hidden family dared to call themselves a divine clan. This is really domineering. However, at the very beginning of its glory, there had been a sect with 3 saints, which was 3 saint kings. This is just like the heavenly netherworld divine nation. There were 3 holy kings, enough to be proud of many divine nations. After the Heaven Realm War, Tian Mei Divine Clan was hit hard, 2 holy kings fell, and countless elite disciples were killed and injured, which immediately led to the decline of Tian Mei Divine Clan. Fortunately, their foundation is not bad. Hiding in Tian Mei mountain range is extremely safe. This is the territory of the initial glory, so it was blessed by the power of 3 holy kings. It is very difficult to break through. Normally, if he had nothing better to do, he would not casually attack them. After all, they had an astounding foundation. Who knew if there were other treasures or other powers hidden within? Unless Tian Mei Divine Clan has an amazing treasure, such as becoming a divine king or something, it will definitely be breached. They are really low-key, no wonder I can't ask them. Tian Mei Divine Clan is really hard to find. They have been in seclusion for hundreds of years, no wonder I don't know. Tianyun frowned. Tian Mei Mountain Range is not listed in the extreme cold zone. The hawker knows the general location, but he doesn't know Tian Mei Mountain Range. Because Tian Mei Mountain Range is not a place that anyone can enter, it is completely blocked from the outside. You can't even see the true face. Even a snow mountain can't be seen in the distance, only a hazy white mist can be seen. It is a dead end. Over time, it is forgotten. No one will come close who will remember this place. If I search all the cold areas, I'm afraid it'll be a waste of time. Tianyun thought it's funny, he'll spend a few years just to find out that it's a waste of time. Of course, he is not that stupid. He originally wanted to hunt demon beasts or something, get some crazy points to buy soul guidance so that he can easily find it. 3 million crazy points is not a lot, at most a few months. He can easily earn it, so it is not a big problem. Spending a few years to find it, he is not that stupid. Now that they had accurate information, they could basically set off. The Zhuoqiu's Celestial Kingdom's information is quite detailed. Tianyun was quite satisfied with the information. They even listed the history of the Tian Mei Celestial tribe. It could be said that they had written everything they knew. He was very satisfied with their sense of responsibility. Apart from the information, the symbol of the Tian Mei divine race was also drawn on it, indicating that it was exactly the same as the one Tianyun had given him. Of course, the Zhuoqiu Divine Kingdom will definitely give you a satisfactory answer, young lord. The divine emissary of the Zhuoqiu Divine Kingdom smiled. He believed that no one had more detailed information than him. Very good, very good. Tianyun nodded in satisfaction and said, "Then come here." Divine emissary Zhuoqiu immediately walked over. Tianyun took out a jade pendant and handed it to him. "Take a look at it yourself. This is the reward I promised you. Don't tell me that you are not satisfied with my request. It is already very worth it to get this reward." Tianyun said indifferently. Divine emissary Zhuoqiu excitedly checked the jade pendant and infused his spiritual power into it. After a while, Divine emissary Zhuoqiu bowed in excitement and said, "Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master. We are very satisfied with this reward, absolutely satisfied." Divine emissary Zhuoqiu bowed to Yi Tianyun again and again. It was obvious that he was satisfied with the reward. Well, you can leave now. Yi Tianyun waved his hand and said, but if I find out that it is false when I go to verify it, don't blame me for being impolite. It is absolutely not false. Our divine kingdom of Zhuoqiu also said that I can personally take you to the Tian Mei celestial kingdom. Divine emissary Zhuoqiu smiled. Our divine kingdom of Zhuoqiu has some relations with that side a long time ago. He didn't say which faction it was. He didn't want others to know about it. How could he let others know that he had spent so much effort to find out? So you have some relations. No wonder you were the first to arrive. Yi Tianyun smiled. This was within his expectations. As long as he gave them accurate information, he didn't believe that no one in the divine kingdom knew about this hidden clan. No matter how hidden the clan was, it was possible that they had appeared before. After all, this was a clan, not a single person. It might be difficult to find a single person, but a clan couldn't hide. Saying it was a hidden clan meant that they had retired from the world. It was different from not being able to find them. Yes, we had a slight advantage. Divine emissary Zhuoqiu smiled. He didn't know, but when he went back to verify it, he immediately got the information. They spent most of their time on the road and collected very little information. At this time, the results of the top 3 were out. He Rongkuan lost in the end and was ranked 4th. He didn't even get a prize. I still lost in the end. Wei Feizhou felt it was a pity, but he was still satisfied. Master, I lost. After He Rongkuan came down, he looked at his master with a depressed expression. He thought he could make it to the top 3, but he still lost. You've worked very hard. You're much stronger than I expected. If I gave you a better martial art, the result would definitely be different. Wei Feizhou knew what their shortcomings were. It wasn't just weapons, but martial arts. Under these conditions, to be able to make it to the top 4 was a kind of counterattack. You're talented. You just need an opportunity. Yi Tianyun waved his hand, and a bright light appeared in his hand. Then he pointed at He Rongkuan's brain, and the bright light flowed into He Rongkuan's brain. This is a martial art for you, study it well. Even if you won the first prize, it's better than this. He Rongkuan closed his eyes to memorize. He didn't even have the chance to thank him because the memory flowed in crazily. He could only close his eyes and memorize. Thank you, young master. Wei Feizhou knelt down and kowtowed heavily. Thank you, young master, for giving me a new lease of life. It's the greatest blessing of my life to be able to meet you. Although he didn't know what martial art it was, he knew that Yi Tianyun's gift was absolutely amazing. How could the martial art be bad when a divine artifact was given to him so casually? Get up. Yi Tianyun said indifferently, I see that you're fated, so I'll give you an opportunity. Make good use of this opportunity. The others looked on enviously. It would be great if they could receive such treatment. Chapter 673. Yi Tianyun looked at Wei Feizhou and didn't agree immediately. Instead, he looked at him indifferently and took a sip of the wine. Wei Feizhou didn't get up. He continued to kneel there and didn't dare to get up. After a while, Yi Tianyun said slowly, You want to talk about your disciple? Yes, I know that Rongkuan is talented. But as his master, I can't teach him well. I want young master to accept him as a servant. I don't need him to be your disciple. Just having him by your side is enough. In such a short time, Wei Feizhou made such a big decision to let He Rongkuan follow Yi Tianyun. This was really decisive. It was equivalent to letting He Rongkuan go. Now that He Rongkuan had martial arts and he also had weapons, he didn't need to beg anyone. Who knew that He Rongkuan would still be a servant? This was really surprising. When he knelt, Yi Tianyun already knew what Wei Feizhou wanted to say. He had experienced many things and guessed it when he knelt. You're willing to? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Ron-kun following young master is his life's fortune. He can't improve on my side, but if he follows young master, he can still improve. Wei Feizhou said sincerely, I can't provide for him in terms of power or resources. He's actually just a lone cultivator. I saw young master praising him, so I boldly said this and begged young master to agree. He was very smart and had a keen eye. He knew what choice to make. If he missed this opportunity, he didn't know when he would get another one. What martial arts, what weapons, to him, these things were not a problem. Being able to stay by Yi Tianyun's side, that's the biggest guarantee. If he could give out holy weapons so easily, it meant that he could give out even stronger weapons in the future. As long as he could do things for Yi Tianyun, what benefits wouldn't he get? Wei Feizhou immediately knew what to do. He would rather let his disciple follow Yi Tianyun than him. He's not bad, but I don't have time for now. How about this, give me an address, and I'll come find you after I'm done with everything. Yi Tianyun felt that Ron-kun was indeed a good choice. If he could recruit him, he would definitely become a rising star in the empire. Ron-kun was like a piece of good jade. As long as it was polished, it would become an extremely precious piece of good jade. However, he had too many things to do at the moment, so he didn't say much. Since Wei Feizhou had said so, accepting him as a subordinate was not a bad choice. Many thanks, young master. Wei Feizhou kowtowed excitedly. To be able to do this for his disciple, he could be considered a very competent master. Or rather, he was more like a father than a master. He was basically helping his child find a better sect so that he could have a better future. A teacher for a day is a father for life. This should be the principle. Of course, when the time comes, you can come with me. After all, the two of you are just loose cultivators with no power. Yi Tianyun did not leave Wei Feizhou behind. Bringing one more person back wouldn't be a problem. Is this true? Wei Feizhou was extremely excited. He originally thought that Yi Tianyun would only bring Ron-kun with him. Who knew that he would be brought along as well? He had no potential to speak of. No matter how hard he struggled in the future, this would be it, unless he encountered an extremely great fortuitous encounter. Do you think I'm lying? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. No, of course not. Wei Feizhou said apologetically. I just feel that I trust you too much. I'm not capable enough. To be able to follow young master, I really can't imagine it. I never look at potential for those who are willing to work for me. I only look at the heart. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently. No matter how talented one was, what was the point if one wasn't loyal? I'm absolutely loyal. I will definitely not tarnish young master's name. Wei Feizhou kowtowed a few times in excitement. His heart was filled with joy. Get up. Your disciple should be awake soon. Yi Tianyun said indifferently, now I'll give you two choices. First, wait for me outside. Second, wait for me here. What's your choice? Staying here was undoubtedly the most convenient and safest choice. Here. Wei Feizhou didn't think too much and chose to stay here. They just got so many treasures and martial arts, how can they just go out at will? There are so many people watching. If they have any greed, they won't be able to wait for Yi Tianyun to come back, they will already be dead. And that's fine. I'll arrange for you to stay in a good place to cultivate. Just wait for me to come back. Yi Tianyun nodded. He felt that this was the right choice. Soon, Ron-kun woke up. His face was filled with excitement. Brother Yi, call me young master. Wei Feizhou scolded. From now on, we have to call you young master. From now on, we have to work for young master. Wei Feizhou then explained the general situation to Ron-kun. Since his master was willing to follow Yi Tianyun, Ron-kun would definitely be willing to follow him. It's about time. I should leave. You guys stay here and cultivate. Yi Tianyun waved his hand and they disappeared on the spot. No one knew where they had been teleported to. The other divine envoys looked at each other and didn't know what to say. Now that half a day had passed, no one had arrived within half a day. This meant that they had really wasted their time. Who knew that the Zhuoqiu Holy Nation would know about the Tianmei Celestial Clan? There were still people fighting fiercely on the roof, but this had nothing to do with him. He stood up and left. At the same time, he said, when the competition is over, you will be automatically teleported out. They were stunned. They thought that they would be able to stay here forever. It seemed like they were too naive. After Yi Tianyun went out, he could be said to be the center of attention. Everyone stared at him, especially the experts from the major forces. They stared at him, wanting to see something from him. Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered with their stares. He walked straight out. Many people's eyes flashed with killing intent and greed. When he walked out, they quickly followed behind him and signaled each other with their eyes, indicating that they were ready. Yi Tianyun ignored their expressions and walked out of the Sky Ascension Divine Altar. He was ready to fly towards the Tianmei mountain range. Since he already had the information, there was no need to stay here any longer. As soon as he walked out of the Sky Ascension Divine Altar, people immediately surrounded him and blocked his way. The key point was not just a few people. Instead, they surrounded him in layers and layers. Other than the underground, there were people everywhere, including the sky. Chapter 674. There were a lot of experts surrounding Yi Tianyun. Many of them were Spirit King stage experts, and some of them were even at the 6th or 7th layer. They surrounded him so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Everyone looked at him with extremely cold eyes, but most of them were filled with greed. This was an inheritor of the heaven-creating Divine King's inheritor. This meant that he was a huge treasure house, so how could he not attract their attention? Brother, we don't ask for much. Just give us half of the heaven-creating Divine King's inheritance. We only need information on divine inscriptions. That's enough. We don't need anything else. We only need a small part of it, a martial art called Divine Art of Universe, and we don't need the rest. Each of them looked at Yi Tianyun with a sinister smile, and they all wanted to take the heaven-creating Divine King's inheritance from him. According to them, basically all the martial arts had to be handed over, but everyone's requirements were different. In this way, what inheritance was there to talk about? There was no need to choose an inheritor, they could just wait for the inheritor to come out. What if I don't give it to you? Yi Tianyun said faintly. That's simple. We'll capture you and force you to confess bit by bit, or use the soul-searching technique to extract your memories bit by bit. One of them laughed sinisterly. I have quite a high level of attainment in the soul-searching technique. Many of them were rogue cultivators, and the divine envoys of the major forces were watching from the side. Among them, the divine envoys of the Zhuoqiu Divine Kingdom could only shake their heads and sigh as they left. It's not that they didn't want to be loyal to Yi Tianyun, but there were too many powerful enemies here, and they couldn't protect themselves. After all, there were so many powerful forces eyeing them, and the Zhuoqiu Divine Kingdom was nothing compared to them. With just you. Yi Tianyun looked at them indifferently and said with a smile. A bunch of chickens and dogs dare to be arrogant in front of me? Maybe I'll be interested if your old ancestor comes here, but you? You're not enough. Boy, you're quite arrogant. One of the Spirit King stage experts sneered. Do you think you're still in the heaven-ascending divine altar? This isn't your territory, it's our territory. What kind of power do you think you can display here? He's just trash when he comes out. That's right, you think you're invincible just because you can control the heaven-ascending divine altar? After coming out, without the protection of the heaven-ascending divine altar, you are nothing. I've long found this brat an eyesore. I'll beat him up first and then slowly interrogate him. At that time, he'll be honest. All of them thought that Yi Tianyun was just using the power of the heaven-ascending divine altar to suppress so many Spirit King stage experts. If he came out, he would be like a paper tiger that could be easily broken with a poke. It seems like you really think that I don't have any power and that I can do whatever I want inside just by relying on the heaven altar? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Isn't that the case? They laughed coldly. Some of them immediately felt that something was wrong, because Yi Tianyun looked too calm, so calm that it was scary. Despite facing so many experts, he didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure at all. He was still talking cheerfully without the slightest bit of fear. If he was just using the power of the heaven ascending divine altar to intimidate others, he should be running away immediately. Since that's the case, then I'll let you experience the power of the heaven ascending divine altar. Yi Tianyun said, and the heavenly nether divine sword appeared in his hand. The netherworld fire appeared on the blade of the sword, and instantly, the temperature in the surroundings dropped to freezing point. In the next moment, he raised his hand and slashed forward, and a dozen meters long sword chi flew out, instantly cutting a large number of experts in front of him into two pieces. The parts that were cut off were quickly ignited by the netherworld fire, and in a blink of an eye, they were frozen into ice sculptures. Successfully killed a Spirit King stage expert. Ding. 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 Because there were too many people here, Yi Tianyun was able to kill more than 20 people with just one slash. They didn't even have time to react before they were killed by Yi Tianyun. Even if they were Spirit King stage experts, they were still killed by Yi Tianyun's sword. Yi Tianyun continued to move forward, and once again, he slashed everyone within a dozen meters of him into two pieces, as if he was cutting melons and vegetables. He's a devil. At this time, the cultivators in the distance immediately realized that their judgment was wrong and very wrong. The young man in front of them did not rely on the power of the heaven ascending divine altar to suppress them, but his own strength was very heaven-defying. Some of the Spirit King stage experts immediately ran away, but some of the Spirit King stage experts reacted quickly and summoned their strongest weapons to attack Yi Tianyun. In the face of such an amazing inheritance, how could they let it go? Most of them were rogue cultivators, and if they could capture Yi Tianyun, it would mean that they could further improve their strength and create their own empire. In order to change their fate, they desperately wanted to capture Yi Tianyun. But it's meaningless. Yi Tianyun gently swung his sword, and it was easily cut in half, like harvesting leeks. One by one, it was harvested. Waves of EXP and Crazy Point were pouring into Yi Tianyun's body, but the amount was small. But he still activated Crazy Mode to earn EXP. He didn't need Crazy Point double card, because Crazy Mode could increase his Crazy Point by 5 times, so the amount of Crazy Point he got was quite considerable. I was just about to say that I'm short of Crazy Point, but since you are sending it to me now, I'll accept it. Every time Yi Tianyun took a step, he would slash with his sword, easily taking away a dozen people's lives. In the eyes of many cultivators, the unreachable powerhouses were easily killed, as if they didn't even need the slightest effort. Run, run. After killing hundreds of people, there were finally people who were scared. They turned around and fled to the side, but a sword light slashed over and cut them in half. Since you are here, don't leave. Yi Tianyun said his mantra. If you want to hunt me, then be prepared to be hunted. Chapter 675. The air was filled with a thick smell of blood, and the ground was dyed red with blood. Looking from afar, it looked like a piece of red land, which made people's hair stand on end. There were even more miserable screams that spread in all directions, adding to the terrifying atmosphere. Piles of corpses were lying on the ground. These corpses belonged to powerful cultivators. Spirit King stage cultivators were few in number, but Void Spirit stage cultivators were everywhere. In Yi Tianyun's hands, these corpses were like pieces of tofu. Devil! Devil! Run! Run! What kind of power is this? Didn't he use the heaven-ascending divine altar to have this kind of power? This is simply nonsense. His strength is very strong, and it is estimated that he is at the late Spirit King stage. One by one, they quickly ran away, not daring to stay here any longer. But will he let the enemies who surrounded Tianyun escape? His figure flashed, and he swung his sword again and again. Countless lives were easily reaped by him. If he couldn't kill them with a single sword strike, he wouldn't kill them with a single sword strike, which meant that the person was lucky enough to escape. In the distance, the forces who didn't participate in the encirclement looked at Tianyun with cold eyes. Tianyun was a tiger himself. Whoever came close to him would be killed without mercy. Fortunately, I didn't have that kind of compassion. Zhuoqiu Divine Messenger was shocked. After seeing such power, all of them were shocked. They didn't intend to participate in the capture battle, mainly because they were a bit in awe of the heaven-creating Divine King, so they didn't do such a thing. Obviously, their decision was right, and it was very correct. If they followed Tianyun's actions, they would be easily beheaded like those corpses. It's too scary. The inheritor of the heaven-creating Divine King is simply a god-killing god. The onlookers didn't dare to approach Tianyun, and they even hid far away. Don't be arrogant. At this time, a loud shout came from the sky, and a Saint King stage cultivator descended from the sky. Obviously, he heard that the inheritor of the heaven-creating Divine King was coming, so he hurried over to have a look. They didn't want others to beat them to it. If they did, they wouldn't have anything left. As soon as the Saint King stage master descended, he slammed his palm down towards Yang Kai. A terrifying force instantly condensed together and formed a giant palm that covered the heavens and earth. This was the power of a Saint King stage master. After seeing this scene, many people felt as if they had seen hope. Sacred monarch flowing light, save us! When they saw that it was a sacred monarch from their god nation, they all cheered. This flowing light sacred king was also very domineering. He had just flown over and wanted to suppress Tianyun without saying anything. It was obvious that he wanted to capture Tianyun and force him to confess. He wasn't going to negotiate with him. Everyone's complexion changed as they secretly thought that Tianyun was finished this time. He had provoked a Saint King stage master, wouldn't he really be suppressed here? It's the flowing light sacred king. His speed is too fast, and he kills everyone in the blink of an eye. This time, the inheritor is finished. He's too fast, he can't even touch him, right? They saw that flowing light sacred king's attack speed was too fast. His first move was the flowing light divine palm. Although it looked like only one palm strike, it was actually dozens of palm strikes. Layer upon layer, the power was absolutely unimaginable. So what if I'm arrogant? Tianyun's eyes were cold. He didn't even need to activate crazy damage mode. His figure flashed and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared behind the Saint King stage master and slashed down heavily. Tianyun's speed was incredible. The Saint King stage master immediately felt a chill behind him, but it was too late for him to react. A sword light slashed down from the top of his head and was immediately split in half. Ding! Successfully killed Yuliuguang. Reward: 3 billion EXP, 250,000 crazy points, 12,000 SPS, obtained martial art flowing light / void breaking art. Reward: flowing light divine sword, high-grade sacred tool, flowing light armor, high-grade sacred tool, flowing light divine talisman, increases speed by 5 times in an instant. Flowing light sacred king was easily killed and turned into a pile of blood mist floating in the air. Tianyun's terrifying power was enough to turn him into a puddle of blood. Flowing light sacred king's speed was amazing, but compared to Tianyun, the difference was too big. 3 desolate equipment had already greatly increased his strength and speed. He didn't even need to use crazy damage mode to suppress everything in front of him. Moreover, Flowing Light Sacred King was only at second layer Saint King stage. How dare he be arrogant in front of him? If you don't have peak Saint King stage cultivation, don't be arrogant in front of me. As long as you aren't a peak Saint King stage cultivator, you are nothing but trash in front of me. Unless you have a peak Saint King stage bloodline, don't be arrogant in front of me. When Tianyun said this, Flowing Light Sacred King couldn't hear it anymore. He was completely dead. How could he hear it? Dead? Dead? A Saint King was easily killed. This immediately scared many people, especially the subordinates of Flowing Light Sacred King. After seeing this scene, their faces turned ashen. The existence that they revered the most had been killed with a single sword strike just like that. There had been no resistance at all. He had been killed so easily. They felt that Flowing Light Sacred King wasn't a Saint King, but an ordinary body refinement stage cultivator. At least to Tianyun, this was the case. Who else has any old ancestor level cultivators? Feel free to call them out. I will welcome them. Tianyun flew down. This time, he didn't continue to kill. Instead, he signaled, no matter how many come, I will kill them all. It just so happens that my hands are itching right now. He smiled indifferently, but this smile made everyone's hair stand on end. This time, they finally understood what was called a mistake. Moreover, it was a huge mistake. At this time, many people recalled what Tianyun said before. Let alone an empire, even a divine kingdom was destroyed by him. Based on the current situation, it was definitely possible to do it. A Saint King stage second layer cultivator was killed with a single sword strike. This meant that his strength was absolutely heaven-defying. Ordinary divine kingdoms could be easily destroyed. Even the stronger divine kingdoms could be slaughtered as long as they plunged in. In the end, they might be driven away by the divine kingdom, but that divine kingdom would probably be half destroyed. The battle between Saint Kings was very fierce. Some Saint Kings were very difficult to kill, so under normal circumstances, they wouldn't fight each other. But for Tianyun, it was a piece of cake for him to kill it. Chapter 676. After Tianyun flew down, he did not continue killing. Just as the others thought they could escape, they only took 2 steps before they felt their bodies turn cold. Then they completely lost consciousness. Because they were cut in half, it would be a miracle if they still had consciousness. Did I agree to let you go? Tianyun faintly looked over there, and many people's feet stiffened, and they didn't dare to continue to escape. Because if he continued to run, he would be cut in half by Tianyun's void slash. I am from the East Deity Divine Nation. If you kill me casually, our ancestors. 1. A sword light slashed over, and this person was cut in half. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the ground red. I said, I will not accept any threats. You can ask your ancestors to come personally. They are more than welcome. If anyone can defeat me, I will be more than happy to give up the inheritance. Tianyun said indifferently. They thought that by announcing their divine nation's power, they would compromise. It seemed like it was useless. Their hearts trembled, especially those who were trapped. They wanted to cry but had no tears. They wanted to slap themselves. Why did they make such a choice? Their brains must have been eaten by dogs. Plop. At this time, someone knelt down and kowtowed. My lord, I was wrong. I was blinded by greed. That's why I did it. I was just watching from afar and did not do anything. Wang. Another sword light slashed down, and he was cut in half. I remember each and every one of you. I don't think you were blinded by greed when you released your killing intent towards me. If you really were blinded by greed, it would be a capital crime. If I was a little weaker and had to rely on the Heaven Ascension altar to suppress you, wouldn't I be dead for sure? Tianyun sneered. I have to say that you are worse than idiots. If I had to rely on the Heaven Ascension altar to suppress you, why would I come out? Do you think I am as stupid as you? His words enlightened many people. It wasn't that Tianyun was a fool, but that they had been blinded by greed and thought that Tianyun was really a fool. In the end, they realized that it wasn't Tianyun who was an idiot, but they were the real idiots. I was wrong. I am willing to use all my treasures to redeem my life. At this time, a cultivator knelt down and begged Tianyun to forgive him. Buzz. The sword light continued to slash over, and he was cut into two again. If I kill you, what do you have that isn't mine? Tianyun waved his hand, and the storage rings on the surrounding corpses flew over. Immediately, a large pile of treasures appeared. Sure enough, killing people and robbing them was the best way to make money. Originally, he had emptied a lot of things to the Heavenly Clouds Empire, but now he suddenly had a bunch more things. It was just that there were too few things that caught his eye, but it was better to have more of these things. Anyway, there was no harm in having them on him. Many of the onlookers were speechless. It seemed that Tianyun wanted to kill everyone. It should be said that this was the price he was talking about when he killed all those who had murderous intent towards him. Tianyun didn't like to repay evil with kindness. He preferred this most direct way of killing people. He could repay evil with kindness, but it didn't mean that the other party would be grateful to him. I will give you enough time to call for help. Take out whatever communication jade pendant you have. You are very welcome to help. Tianyun smiled indifferently. He was worried that he didn't have enough crazy points. Unless a god king came in person, he would be able to suppress them. At the same time, he wanted to figure out the situation of the heaven world and the ghost world. Looking at Tianyun's fearless situation, many people were speechless. Others were worried about being hunted down, but he was waiting for revenge. They didn't know if Tianyun was overconfident or arrogant. There were many rogue cultivators here, so how could there be any helpers? They could only tremble and pray that Tianyun wouldn't kill them. It seems that you don't plan to call for help? Then you can all die. Tianyun pointed his finger, and instantly, many cultivators within a 10-mile radius were instantly killed, but they were all those who were murderous towards him. The rest were not greedy, so they didn't suffer any damage. Tianyun glanced around, and the cultivators around him took a few steps back, not because of the aura, but because they were scared by Tianyun. Many forces shook their heads. It seems that this treasure is not so easy to swallow. Even Lu Guang Holy King was easily killed, unless there is a heaven-defying expert. It's just that those heaven-defying Holy Kings are either in seclusion or busy with other things. Why would they come for these juniors? The key is that Tianyun is killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Unless they are an idiot, otherwise they won't come. Even a holy king would have to weigh themselves. Whether they can suppress Tianyun is another matter. Who would dare to provoke a saint king who has the inheritance of heaven creating divine king? Only the heavens knew if there would be a powerful divine inscription grand formation or a powerful martial art. If that happened, he would be suppressed. Looking at everyone's horrified expression, Tianyun wants this kind of effect, enough to shock everyone, let them know that it is not that easy to get the inheritance. It just so happens that he wanted to earn some crazy points. Since they want to die, then he won't be polite. Is there no one else? Then I will leave first. Tianyun quickly flew away, leaving a group of people looking at each other. Let's go back and report this matter to the king. Divine messengers with Xiao nodded to his companion and quickly left. There are many experts around him to protect him. He is now holding a precious inheritance, so he must have more experts to protect him. Not to mention that Tianyun needs protection, even they have to be careful. Otherwise, they will be in big trouble. The heaven-creating divine king's descendant has appeared. I don't know what other forces will think. Hurry up and report this matter. We must not disrespect him when we see him in the future. One by one, they quickly went back to report this matter. After this incident, Tianyun's reputation will spread throughout the heaven world. This is the effect Tianyun wants. He wants everyone to know that the descendant of heaven creating divine king has come, so that the descendants of other divine kings will know about him. Tian Mei mountain range, Tianyun's eyes flashed. He hasn't seen Shuyun for more than a year. He doesn't know what's going on now. Originally, divine messengers Wuqiu wanted to take him there, but he refused. There is no need for others to lead the way. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.